The tale begins in a moment of pure denial. Our boy Burj lies broken on the floor of his own throne room and blood pools beneath him. His mind simply refuses to accept what has just happened. When reality hits and you cannot understand it, the mind slides into denial and Burj is drowning in it now. His proud black flames and the ones he spent years cultivating could not kill a single hero. The hero's crimson blade pierced clean through his scales, and those are scales he believed were harder than any metal in existence. The blade buried itself in his heart. Burj cannot understand it, and the question comes to his lips even before the fear of death arrives. How could this be? To make sense of the shock, our boy thinks back to who he was. He entered the Demon King Military Academy as the top student and graduated summa cum laude. Among the demon race, no one ever stood above him. He devoted his life to the sacred doctrine known as the Demon King's Standards, and that is a theory established by the first Demon King Emperor, who laid the foundation of the entire demon realm. Burj researched that doctrine harder than anyone alive, and followed it down to the last comma. He built a tower. He kidnapped princesses because the anger of a kidnapped kingdom directed at him was the finest possible meal a demon king could ask for. He also developed the heroes who came to save those princesses. Sincerity, the standards taught, is shown by helping the heroes grow and then eating them. The stronger the hero, the tastier they become. Burj followed those teachings better than any demon king before him. He absorbed the abundant sadness and anger of the heroes and of countless civilians, and he became the strongest demon king the world had ever known. So why is he the one lying on the floor? He still cannot understand how it happened. The hero standing over him only grins. He tells Burj that demon kings always say the exact same thing at the end. They are the ones who bring this kind of situation upon themselves, and then they act like they cannot believe what is happening. Burj snaps that this is bullshit, but the hero keeps going. Hero says demon kings always kidnap the most famous princess and leave clues so obvious that the heroes come running to the tower. If Burj had kidnapped the king instead, the whole kingdom would have plunged into chaos fighting over the throne, and no hero party would have ever come. Burj's mind reels. That would go against the standards, he thinks. Internal conflict among humans would rob him of the pure hatred that fuels a demon king's growth. That is not all. The hero continues. Even when heroes do not come to the tower, demon kings still send a decent amount of monsters out to the villages to train them, and the heroes could not be more grateful. If they do go to the tower, it is even easier. The first floor is always full of weak monsters, and everyone gets to train at their own level. The heroes cannot even die halfway because the demon king is being oh so careful to save them for later. That is what the standards taught our boy. That is exactly what the standards taught him. Then the hero delivers the killing blow to Burj's worldview. When the tower gets boring, all a hero needs to do is kill the current demon king, and a new demon king and a new tower will appear soon after. It is the perfect eternal hunting ground for heroes. The heroes gathered around laugh and thank Burj for his efforts. They tell him this tower was pretty good. He was more of a godfather to them than a demon king ever was. The word godfather rings inside his skull and fractures something in him. His tower and his masterpiece was nothing more than their hunting ground. The hero adds one last twist and says Burj was actually quite strong this time compared to other demon kings. A lot of heroes died to him. Still, he acted exactly the same as all the others, so this was always going to end the same way. Well, the hero shrugs and says that is fine. He became famous because of it. Now goodbye, Demon King, the hero says and swings the blade down. Rage tears through what is left of Burj. How dare a hero do this to him? To think they can humiliate him like this? What the hell is the Demon King's standards then? He refuses to die in vain, and not like this. He roars inside his own head that he is a demon king, and he pulls every last drop of demonic energy into his ruined heart. If those who look down on him will not die by his hand, he will drag them down with him, even if it costs the last of his life. The heroes finally realize what is happening. One of them shouts that his horns belong to him and no one should touch his head, and another screams for everyone to run. It is already too late. Burj's heart detonates and black fire eats the throne room in every direction. His last thought is bitter regret. The standards were wrong from the start. If only he had known the heroes looked down on demon kings because of the standards, he would never have followed them. If given another chance, then screw the standards. He will feed them to the orcs. His vision goes dark. Then a faint voice brushes against his ears and calls his name over and over. Burj Dias. Burj Dias. Our boy's eyes snap open and the world is impossible. He is standing in a grand auditorium under cold blue light. Hundreds of demon students in red uniforms are seated in tiered rows and staring at him. What the hell? He is alive. He is actually alive. Someone on the stage is calling him forward and Burj's mind scrambles to catch up. That is his name being called. He forces his legs to move and walks down the long aisle toward the platform. This is the director of the Demon King Military Academy, and he is an old vampire with slicked back white hair and a deep red waistcoat. The director looks at him with concern and asks why a brilliant mind like Burj is acting like this today of all days on his graduation. He pins a red badge on Burj's chest, and that is the symbol given to every student who graduates from the Demon King Military Academy. It is the symbol of a future Demon King. Only then does the full weight of it land on him. This is the graduation day of the Demon King Military Academy's students 15 years ago. Our boy has been sent back to before he built the tower, back to before he became the trash that the heroes made their trinket. The announcer calls the graduating students who will soon become Demon Kings up to the stage to recite their pledge. Summa cum laude Burj Dias is asked to read the standards aloud as the representative of his year. A glowing hologram unfolds in front of him. The Demon King's standards. Rule 1 is build a tower. Rule 2 is kidnap princes and princesses. Rule 3 is become a mastermind in the shadows. The exact same doctrine Burj has seen 1,000 times and memorized to a T and obeyed to the letter. The exact same doctrine that led him straight to his own humiliating death. The graduates behind him wait. A red-haired demon graduate murmurs whether he is really being told to recite this right now and to swear once again that he will follow this for the rest of his life in front of everyone. The announcer prompts him a second time and asks Burj Dias to please read the great Demon King's standards. Every drop of hatred Burj swallowed at the moment of his death comes surging back. His jaw locks and his fingers curl. He says he refuses. The hall falls silent and the other graduates freeze. Burj's voice climbs into a scream that shakes the auditorium. He says he cannot pledge himself to something so unbelievably stupid. Following the standards is foolish and deranged. The Demon King's standards, he roars until his throat tears open, is trash. And in that single instant, the greatest summa cum laude in the history of the Demon King Military Academy ends up dead last. The tale picks up right where the disaster left off. Our boy Burj Dias stands in the center of the auditorium, with hundreds of demons glaring at him. His own declaration that the Demon King's standards are trash is still ringing off the vaulted ceiling. Then a monster silhouette descends onto the stage. This is Archduke Arcane Blairemph of the Demon Realm, and he is a towering demonic lord whose glowing red horns and fanged grin promise violence. He announces that Burj may very well be executed on the spot for daring to insult the sacred standards, but because of his previously exemplary conduct and outstanding talent, he will be given one final chance. He tells Burj to withdraw the reckless statement and apologize to the entire demon realm, or his assigned deployment location will be Arene. The Archduke's face twists in rage, and he snarls that Burj is truly hopeless. Effective immediately, Burj Dias will be assigned to Arene. He will receive none of the privileges normally granted to a top demon king. No demons will accompany him. Until the occupation is complete, he is forbidden from returning to the demon realm. A crimson magic circle blooms beneath Burj's feet and swallows him whole. Burj's stomach lurches as space folds around him. He is falling now. Well, that is expected after causing such a mess. Still, he really is being sent back there. The place opens up beneath him. Arene, the land where the heroes who killed him live. His mind drifts back as he plummets through the sky. Even before his regression, Burj had personally chosen Arene for himself. He thought that the strongest like him should conquer the hardest difficulty. That arrogance cost him his life. Too many heroes were exploiting the Demon King standards, and he walked straight into their farm, believing he was the farmer. He crash lands in the deep snow of the northern continent's Urgast Mountains. Cold wind bites his face. Our boy straightens up and sets his jaw. He will not let it happen twice. This time he will be the one to exploit it. This time it will be the hero standards. Rewind a few hours. Early in the morning of the graduation ceremony, a dark elf named Gordon Dyrek is humming in front of his bathroom mirror. He shaves his face carefully and tidies his hair and puts on a crisp, dark suit. Today he cannot afford to give a bad impression because today is his first meeting with his lord. This is Gordon, and he is the top graduate of the Demon Academy, which is the school that trains the demon folk who serve demon kings. It is distinct from the Demon King Military Academy that produces the Demon Kings themselves. As the top demon folk of his year, Gordon has been assigned to serve the top demon king of the year, and that is Lord Berge. Berge is of the great lineage of the demon dragons and a once-in-a-millennium prodigy who will be remembered in demon realm history forever. Gordon has already read Berge's file cover to cover, and every page of praise made his heart swell. He is the luckiest dark elf alive. At the ceremony, other soon-to-be lieutenants gather around him. One of them, who is a demon graduate who came second, sighs that if only he had worked a little harder he could have been the one serving Lord Berge. A third-ranked graduate chuckles that all their demon kings are great people, though none are as great as Lord Berge. Gordon smiles proudly and thinks that with Lord Berge they can conquer any dimension together and be engraved on the glorious pages of demon realm history forever. Then Berge takes the stage. Then Berge receives the badge. Then Berge refuses the oath and roars that the Demon King standards are trash. Gordon's legs give out. His entire future collapses in a single sentence. Back in the frozen Urgest Mountains, our boy stands alone in the snow and waits. Then footsteps crunch behind him and he turns to see Gordon trudging through the drifts. His glasses are fogged and his long hair is whipped by the wind, but the Archduke said no demon would accompany him. Yet they sent one after all. Berge greets Gordon warmly and says it is good to see him. Gordon's face crumbles and he wails about the standards. He asks how Berge could say such things in front of everyone. And of all places, Irene. Now Gordon is going to die too. The guy suggests he calm down before he rips his own hair out. Gordon shrieks that his hair is not the issue right now. Berge watches him quietly and reflects that Gordon was not like this before the regression. In the previous timeline, his lieutenant had been confident and composed. Gordon even admits, half sobbing, that if the deployment had not been Aaron, he would not feel motivated at all. That is understandable, our boy thinks. The situation truly is vastly different now. But if he tells Gordon about the regression, Gordon will think he has gone completely insane. Better to say nothing. Gordon finally gathers himself and straightens his glasses. He bows slightly and asks Berge to forgive his shameful display earlier. Since it has come to this, he will fulfill his duty. Rule 1 of the Demon King's standards says the Demon King must build a tower and it cannot be hidden in an excessively harsh environment so that heroes can find it. Berge pulls out a small red gem the size of a fist. This is a tower seed. Plant it in the ground and feed it Demon King blood and the tower will grow. Gordon watches in horror and gasps that this goes directly against the standards. He asks if they are now throwing away even the pride of a Demon King. Berge's expression softens for a moment because he understands the disgust Gordon feels. As a demon, it is nearly impossible to deny a faith carved so deep into the bones. Unless you died or experienced something equally drastic, you cannot reject it. Because that was him too not so long ago. Then his voice hardens. He tells Gordon to listen well. The Demon King standards are garbage, and especially here in Arene, because Arene is swarming with heroes, way too many of them. The seed erupts into red light. A voice from the magic itself announces that the tower is identifying the user. Race is Black Flame Demonic Dragon Tribe. Name is Berge Deus. Identification complete and summoning tower. Stone bursts from the snow and shoots up into the winter sky and floor after floor stacks on itself. Berge explains as they watch. Demon Kings kept dying in Arene because after countless tower destructions, the humans figured out the tower had a fixed mechanism. They used the Demon King standards against every new Demon King who arrived. Really, in Arene, it should not even be called the Demon King standards anymore. It should be called the Heroes standards. Gordon stammers that he does not even understand what that means. The two step inside. Berge's tower floor 1. It is completely empty. Not a single monster and no maze and no traps and nothing. Gordon says a normal tower should have a complex structure or be full of monsters. Berge shrugs and tells him this is a tower with no perks and a tower fit for a Demon King with no privileges. They climb to floor 5, which is the Demon King's chamber. also completely empty. Gordon rallies once more. Fine, so the tower is already built and cannot be undone, but at least they must follow Rule 2 of the standards and kidnap a prince or princess, preferably one close to the throne as they yield more demonic energy. Gordon respectfully asks permission to advise the Demon King, and Berger nods. Gordon unrolls a map and points to the kingdom closest to the Urgest Mountains, which is the kingdom of Corzin. He says to kidnap the princess with the highest succession rank there and absorb the kingdom's rage and sorrow and grow quickly. He knows Berger will probably refuse, but Berger replies and says they will do that. Gordon stares at him because he is absolutely certain he has misheard. Thank goodness, Gordon thinks, and tears nearly well up. Lord Berger really is the top Demon King after all. He was just stressed out from the graduation. This is still salvageable. This is where it really begins. He volunteers to accompany his lord on the kidnapping, but Berger tells him to stay behind and guard the tower. The Demon King's residence must not be empty. Gordon nods gratefully and asks who Berger plans to bring back. Well, our boy says slowly, from the country farthest from the tower and the southernmost nation on the continent, the kingdom of Hilderan. Far to the south, a great castle stands draped in banners under a full moon. Among all the princesses of Hilderan, the one with the least presence of them all is the 13th princess. A young woman with long blonde hair and wide blue eyes and a plain white nightgown sits alone in a corner room. Berger glides down onto her balcony and tells her softly that he has come to take her. Somewhere in a distant snowbound tower, Gordon feels his stomach drop. That is the total opposite of the standards. Our boy Berger, standing in the moonlit chamber of the 13th princess of the kingdom of Hilderan, or so he believes. The young blonde woman on the bed looks up at him with wide light purple eyes and asks calmly who he is. Berger answers plainly and says he is the Demon King who has come to kidnap her. She does not scream and she does not run. She simply tilts her head and asks if he is sure he can handle her. Berger frowns. What a strange question. Does she think Demon Kings are some kind of joke? Of course he can handle her because he is a Demon King. Then she says she will let him take her and stands up smoothly. Something about her calm is wrong. Our boy narrows his eyes and tells her that she is strangely composed for someone being kidnapped. He asks what she is plotting. The princess answers that she is not plotting anything. Since she was born a princess, she always thought something like this might happen to her one day, and she has been prepared for it since childhood. Berger warns her that if she is hoping he will let his guard down, she should give up now. He says he is quite desperate himself and will not be tricked. The princess only blinks at him. She wonders internally how she is supposed to be setting up a trap when she had no way of knowing a Demon King would arrive tonight. She has a point. But then what is this uncomfortable feeling gnawing at the back of Berger's mind? Well then, shall we? He extends a gloved hand and she takes it without hesitation. Together they lift off the balcony and vanish into the night sky. Urgest Mountains, Berger's tower. Gordon rushes out into the snow to greet them as they land, and he is nearly weeping with relief that his lord has come back safely and with a princess in tow. Berger instructs him to let her stay in a corner of the 4th floor. Gordon asks if not the prison. The guy replies that she came along without much resistance, so he is willing to offer her a certain degree of leniency. Gordon nods gratefully and then adds that there is something urgent he must tell the Demon King. Meanwhile, on the 4th floor, the princess sits down on the cold stone and pulls her knees to her chest. She really has been kidnapped. There is nothing here. No pillows and no blankets and no maids and no pretty gardens. It is nothing like the kingdom she left behind. Then she lets her mouth curl just slightly. But it is not so bad. Back in the throne chamber, Gordon presents the news. An invitation has arrived from the Tower of Beasts, and it is a welcome party thrown by another Demon King in Arene for the new arrival. Berger's jaw sets. A welcome party? He thinks not. It is probably just a pathetic attempt to haze the newcomer and throw some weight around. Our boy reflects that Demon Kings are fundamentally too proud to join hands with anyone else, but Arene has one bizarre feature no other dimension shares, and that feature has forced the local Demon Kings to swallow their pride and form a little club. In his previous timeline, he ignored them because he thought they were all weak-minded. This time he decides he should at least try to have some light exchanges with them. Elsewhere in Arin, a jungle-choked spire wreathed in green mist rises out of the trees. This is the Tower of Beasts. Berger steps into its steaming interior. A rasping voice welcomes him. This is Draxon, the Demon King of Beasts, and he has been ruling over this place for 70 years already. Draxon turns out to be a massive gray-furred wolf beast standing upright on two legs, with fangs bared under a cracked bone mask and one red eye glowing in the dark. He looks Berger up and down and sneers that he has heard the new Demon King mock the traditional way at graduation, but honestly, he is pretty unimpressive in person. Berger asks flatly whether Draxon is here to pick a fight and tells him to state the business. Draxon barks a laugh and says Berger knows nothing. Archduke Arcane himself told Draxon to watch over the new Demon King the moment he arrived. Berger's expression sours. Ah, that noisy old vampire geezer. Draxon's hackles rise and he snarls that Berger dares address the Archduke that way. He says the guy has some guts. The gray beast then flings a raw, dripping chunk of meat at Berger's feet and orders him to lick it. He says if Berger does that, then Draxon will pardon his impudence. Berger just looks down at the meat and then up at Draxon, and he is completely unimpressed. Draxon presses and asks if Berger truly does not know why he is here. Berger answers coldly that of course he knows. Draxon is here because Berger mocked the orthodoxy of demon kings. Draxon growls that then Berger should also know that according to that orthodoxy, demon kings cannot kill each other. However, our boy says, and asks if Draxon really thinks he would follow that rule. Killing intent floods the chamber. His aura crashes down on the wolf, and Draxon's massive head jerks back. His red eye goes wide, and he forces out one question through the mask, asking what this aura is. The Beast King's own killing intent cracks. He recovers just enough to spit out his real mission. Archduke Arcane ordered him to check whether Berger has properly kidnapped a princess. If Berger does not report a successful kidnapping within 1 month, his tower authority will be revoked. Berger's expression cools and he says he was wondering what Draxon was building up to. He has already kidnapped a princess. Draxon's ears twitch in surprise, but our boy adds with the smallest smirk that she suits his taste. He turns his back and walks out without another word. Back in Berger's tower, Gordon bows deeply and says, Lord Berger has excellently shown the majesty of a demon king. Berger waves it off and says it is nothing special. For now, Draxon cannot do anything more, but they need to be prepared for what comes next. He orders Gordon to go check on the princess's condition and adds privately that he needs to learn how to make use of her. Alone in the throne room, our boy presses a hand to his temple. This is troublesome. If this is really the general stance of the other demon kings in Arinen, then things are going to get bothersome fast. The consequences of mocking the orthodox way are bigger than he expected. But even if he were given another chance, he thinks he would make the exact same choice. He would rather die than bow his head to trash. He shakes off the mood and pulls up his tower system window. He will not repeat the same mistake, and this time he will rebuild his foundation from scratch. Since he has kidnapped a princess of the lowest rank, he will only be getting a few hundred demonic energy points from the emotional wave of her kingdom. Still, this is the safest way to start. The number that appears on the screen stops him cold. 13,219 points. His mouth goes dry. 13,000. Why does he have so many? Before he can figure it out, another window opens beside the first. He has received a video recording from the Tower of Beasts. Draxon's grinning muzzle appears on the projection. The wolf drawls with cloying politeness and says he is sending this over to congratulate Berger. Though their first meeting was unfortunately not the best, Draxon should at least offer this much respect as a senior. After all, what Berger achieved in Arin is by no means an easy feat, and Draxon is truly impressed. He asks if mocking the orthodox way was just a cover. Berger's blood turns to ice. Something is wrong. Then Gordon bursts back into the chamber out of breath and pale. He says they have a problem, and the 4th floor is the two of them race up the stairs. Butterflies flutter past them on the landing, and grass grows through the cracks in the stone. When they burst through the 4th floor door, they find not a bare stone cell, but a lush emerald garden. Trees sprout from the floor and a stream trickles between mossy rocks. Spirits of water and fire and earth and wind float peacefully around a young woman seated on a bed of flowers. Berger's tower, 4th floor. Status is naturalization in progress. The princess looks up and smiles gently. She says, "Oh, he is here already." Berger's stomach turns to lead. She created an entire ecosystem inside a magic tower. This is a feat only someone who has mastered all 4 elements can perform. He clearly went to the 13th princess's castle, but there is only one spiritist on the entire continent capable of this level of natural weaving. Berger forces the sentence out slowly, and dread builds in his throat. He tells her she is not the 13th princess. The blonde woman smiles wider and says, as expected, he mistook her for Elena. Berger stammers and tells her not to say what he thinks she is about to say. That is right. Her voice rings bright and cheerful. Her name is Ernan Hilderin, and she is the first princess of the Hilderin kingdom. Far to the south, in a marble castle bathed in torchlight, word has already reached the throne. The first princess has been abducted by a demon king. Seated upon the throne is King Hilderin himself, and he is a massive lion-headed monarch whose golden mane trembles as his roar shakes the pillars. He demands to know who dared to kidnap his dearest princess Arnon. He orders them to gather the strongest heroes and the entire military of the kingdom this instant. They shall behead the foolish demon king and bring his princess back to him. Ernan Hilderin, smiling in the middle of her stolen ecosystem, with her hands lifted in playful triumph. She tells Berge sweetly that that is exactly why she asked. She wanted to know if he can actually handle her. Our boy's eyes narrow. He heard from the tower system that she is a mage overflowing with mana. There is no way he did not detect it. He asks himself how she fooled him. She lifts her right hand and shows him a plain silver ring. She tells him she can hide her mana with this ring and that it is an heirloom passed down in the Hilderin royal family. Hilderin has heard it once belonged to a hero. Then she tilts her head and smiles. She asks if that answers his question and whether he wants to send her back. She waits hopefully. Her attending spirits float around her, and there is a water droplet and a tiny flame and a wind wisp and an earth pebble. All of them watch Berge for his answer. Berge's face does not move, but inside his skull a storm is roaring. If he sends the princess back now, he will be mocked in every corner of Arene. No kingdom will be scared of a coward demon king, and it will make it that much harder to collect demonic energy from here on. His jaw tightens. He has to stick this one through. A tower window pops open in front of him. Signal detected. Berge Deas detected. Possessed demonic energy points 19,521. They have already singled him out. There is no going back now. The guy turns to Ernan and tells her flatly that nothing changes even if she is not the 13th princess. She is still his hostage. Ernan's expression falls slightly and she nods and lets her hands drop. Far to the south, inside the marble hall of the Hilderin royal palace, King Hilderin roars from his throne. He orders them to kill the foolish demon king and bring back his princess. His chief advisor is a lean old man with round glasses and a neat goatee. He bows deeply and tells the king that they do not yet know which demon king is doing this. Patrols have been sent, so he asks the king to please wait. The king slams his throne and demands they hurry and figure it out. The princess was kidnapped and they are all doing nothing. But something is off, the advisor says quietly. The king snaps at him and asks what now. The advisor reminds His Majesty that the Demon King of Lust recently kidnapped another nation's prince. The Demon King of Lust brought the rage of too many kingdoms upon himself, and he was killed by heroes not long after. Despite such an obvious example, another Demon King has now appeared to kidnap their princess. He asks if that is not strange. The hall falls silent as the realization spreads across every noble face. It must be a new one. A rookie demon king who has not yet learned that touching a real crown princess is a death sentence. A messenger bursts through the doors. He reports that traces of teleporting magic have been found and it is headed north. The destination is assumed to be the Urgist Mountains. The king's golden mane bristles. The Urgist Mountains. Back at Berge's tower on those very peaks, Gordon paces the throne room and he is worried out of his skin. He asks if the Demon King really does not think the army from Hilderan will be a bit too much for him to handle. Our boy waves him off and says it is fine. The kingdom of Hilderan will not be able to come here. The Urgist Mountains are at the very edge of the northern tip of the continent, and the kingdom of Hilderan is at the very southern tip. It is simply not possible that all the nations located in between will just let a Hilderan army march straight through their territory. Berge leans back with a small smirk and says that means the king will be forced to hire the Hero Guild instead. Gordon nods slowly and admits they have no choice but to contact the Hero Guild. That's exactly what Berge thought. The king admits they have no choice but to contact the Hero Guild. Elsewhere on the continent, the Hero Guild is in an uproar. The Princess of Hilderan was kidnapped, and they want to know what crazy demon king would do that. Another hero shouts in disbelief that the destination is Urgest, and that place is full of hellish monsters. Hero after hero refuses the contract. One veteran snorts that he is not doing this hero thing to die, and says the king of Hilderan is going to suffer. Back in the throne chamber, Bergie explains it to Gordon calmly. The Hero Guild will not budge because those guys only care about money. They will not want to go somewhere so dangerous, and that is exactly why he built his base here in the first place. Gordon stares at his lord with something close to awe. He says Lord Bergie considered even that. He adds that the Demon King does not really stick to the rules, and yet he feels weirdly knowledgeable when it comes to Arene. It is almost as if he has been here before. Back in the Hilderan Hall, the king's fury explodes. He demands to know why there is no hero who wants to step up for the job, and asks how they can call themselves heroes. The advisor bows and explains that as many heroes as there are in Arene, they care more about their profits. That makes them very picky, so it will take some time until a proper group is formed. Bergie sees the same delay from the other side. He watches his tower system as monster summon options scroll past, including skeleton and tower upgrades, and resources and skill amplification. Each one has a hefty price in demonic energy points. It will take some time for the heroes to get here too. But despite everything he has gathered, this is nowhere near enough demonic energy to deal with a whole army of heroes. Bergie knows that fear all too well, because he died to it in the previous timeline. He straightens up in his throne and tells Gordon to contact Draxon. He is going to sell demonic energy. Gordon's jaw physically drops as he chokes out a strangled response. He stammers about demonic energy, the very demonic energy and the currency of dreams that lets them transcend the limits of their species and unlock features of the tower as well as bring in monsters. He asks if Lord Bergie wants to exchange it for human money. Yes, our boy says calmly. Draxon will pay a huge sum for it. Bergie will not be able to stop the heroes with the amount of demonic energy he currently has. But with human money, there is something he can do. Days later, a walled fortress town called Hultenwerk sits in the shadow of the Urgest Mountains. A cloaked figure approaches its front gate and guards level their spears and shout for him to halt. Bergie pulls his hood low and answers simply that he is a mercenary. One guard asks what kind of insane mercenary goes to the Urgest Mountains alone, and starts to say he is suspy. The clink of a gold coin lands in the guard's palm and cuts him off mid-word. The guards leans in and asks if half and half is not fair enough. They wave him through without another word. Once inside, he pulls his hood tighter and thinks. He cannot look around this city on his own, and he needs a guide first. Scarlet Hawk Mercenary Guild headquarters. A group of grubby fighters lounge around a beer-soaked table. One of them tells the captain, who is a burly bearded man with a scar across the temple, that they should think about leaving Hultenwerk soon. The captain scoffs and asks why they would leave this wonderful place. The soldiers take care of the monsters and they just take the spoils of battle. He asks what could possibly be better than this place. The captain asks if the captain heard the news. A new demon king set up a tower on the Urgest Mountains. The captain laughs and dismisses it as fake news. He asks if the guy even knows demon kings, and says they always set up their towers where the heroes can easily reach them. The mercenary presses and says he heard the demon king even kidnap the princess of Hilderan. The captain roars with laughter and asks if anyone has ever seen a demon king go to the very other end of the continent just to snatch a princess. He declares that is completely impossible. Then another mercenary asks, how about this? The Hero Guild turned down the job after hearing about the destination. The captain snaps that it is just a show. He asks what a princess is and answers that she is a precious heir. He says the Hero Guild is just pulling a trick to milk more money out of the desperate king. Everyone at the table knows how crazy those guys are when it comes to money. The mercenaries nod along and chuckle. A cold voice slices through the laughter. Bergie says he sees and now he knows what is up. Our boy is standing right behind the captain with his arms folded and his hood still up. The captain jerks so hard he nearly falls off his stool and screams that Bergie scared him. He demands to know who Bergie is. Bergie's tone does not shift and he tells them they seem pretty knowledgeable. He says to leave one behind and the rest of them should get out. Steel flashes and the captain roars that Burj is the infiltrator and he is not getting out of here alive. Blades and pistols fire from every angle. Burj ducks and weaves and his fists move in short, brutal arcs. Bones crack and mercenary after mercenary drops. Somewhere down the street, two hooded observers glance up at the crash of noise. They mutter that they are fighting again and wonder if they do not get tired. When the dust settles, only the captain is left. He is sprawled across the wreckage of his own table and he is bloodied and terrified. Berger crouches over him and tells him calmly not to be scared. He says he will spare the captain if he answers his questions. The captain sobs out a yes, and Berger asks where the slave market is. Later, at a grand mansion on the edge of the fortress city that is gated and heavily guarded, Berger is led through iron cages down into the basement. A dealer with a gold tooth and greasy hair grins beside him. He says there are only human slaves here, and his eyes flick nervously. He asks if they are not to Berger's liking. The guy asks flatly if there is not more rare stuff. The dealer's gaze tracks Berger's fingers as another gold coin appears between them. The dealer says yes, of course, and tells him to come this way. As they walk deeper, Berger reflects internally on how the dealer can make that face after seeing how his subordinates upstairs got beaten to pulp. He thinks that humans desiring money and demons desiring demonic energy are basically no different from each other. At the end of a long stone corridor, the dealer stops and gestures at another row of cages. Berger looks at the otherworldly species that the humans captured. Inside the cages sit gaunt figures with pointed ears, and they are chained and bruised. He thinks that an elf known for their integrity would be best. The guy steps closer to the cages. He will use that elf as a spy to create chaos among the heroes. Far to the south in the Hildren throne room, a herald calls out that hero Hillen Cargill is here. A tall blonde knight in white and gold armor strides down the red carpet and kneels before the king. The king leans forward with his eyes gleaming and says he trusted that hero Cargill would apply for this job. Hillen Cargill answers with his head still bowed. He says he will rescue the princess and he will bring back the Demon King's head in the name of justice. Our boy Berger Diaz thinking through his plan as he descends into the mansion's private basement. He will use the elf as a spy and confuse the heroes. It should be very effective since elves as a species are famously known for being honest and innocent to a fault. In the shadowed underground row of cages, Berger stops in front of one. Inside sits a chained elf with long matted green hair, and his hands are bound behind his back. A thick bit gag is wedged deep in his mouth. The greasy slave dealer scurries up beside Berger and asks what kind of slaves he is looking for. Berger answers plainly and says he is here to buy this elven slave. He jerks a thumb at the Red Hawk captain trailing along and says the guy behind him will be the one paying for it. The dealer's mouth falls open in disbelief and the captain nearly swallows his own tongue. Berger turns his head with a calm smile and asks if the captain objects. Of course not, the mercenary stammers and says it is only a given that he has to pay for it. Berger nods and says he needs to confirm something with the elf. He tells both of them they will need to leave the room. The dealer hesitates and warns that the elf might go berserk without the gag. Berger waves it off and says it is fine. If anything happens, the captain will pay for that too. Once he is alone with the cage, Berger reaches through the bars and pulls the gag free. Then he lets a small pulse of dark demonic energy bleed off his fingers. The chained shoulders in the cage stiffen and the elf's head snaps up. He asks if Berger is a demon and what business a demon could possibly have with an elf. Berger crouches down until they are eye to eye and says he wishes to give the elf a chance to get his revenge on humans. The elf's face twists and he grits out that it is a tempting offer. But he says he cannot trust demons as much as he can trust humans. The guy leans in and says he is different. If the elf stays loyal to him for exactly 50 years, Berger will guarantee his safety and full freedom afterward. 50 years is not even that long for an elf, and it should be much better than getting humiliated by humans like this. The elf laughs bitterly and points out that Berger is a demon. His kind is trying to destroy the world tree the elves serve, along with the very world the world tree sustains. So how is the elf supposed to trust him? Also, in the first place, it is deeply strange for a demon to seek the help of an elf. Berger exhales quietly because that last line hits him right where it hurts. Fine, then let us do this properly. He pulls a small crimson tome from his coat, which is a copy of the Demon King's standards, and lays his palm flat on it. He vows on the great Demon King's standards to fulfill his promise, and he vows not to lay a hand on the world tree. The Demon King's standards, he explains, is to a demon what the world tree is to an elf. In return, he wants the elf to swear on the world tree that he will pledge allegiance to Burji for the next 50 years. The elf stares at him for a long moment and says Burji is a strange one, but if he is going that far, then so be it. He straightens up on his knees and says his name is Granada of the Maple tribe. He will make his vow once he sees the Demon King who sent this messenger, in person and no substitutes. Burji's mouth curves. In that case, Granada can do it right now because Burji is the Demon King. Granada's expression goes blank for a full second. Then he throws his head back and howls with laughter so hard his whole body shakes. He tells Burji not to make him laugh and asks why a Demon King would come here in person to a filthy slave market. Everyone knows Demon Kings grow weaker the further they are from their tower. Why on earth would one travel directly just to buy a single elf slave? He adds that if Burj really is the Demon King, then Granada will pledge his allegiance for the next 100 years instead. Burj's eyes glint. 100 years. Granada's words and not his. The narrative lands inside Burj's tower on the 5th floor. Granada is dragged in and thrown onto the polished stone before Burj's throne. Our boy sits comfortably on the seat with one leg crossed over the other and reminds Granada calmly about the 100-year contract. Granada's own words. The elf staggers to his feet and looks around at the vast empty chamber, and his jaw drops. Burj really is a Demon King. Then his shock curdles into pure fury. He complains that this is a complete scam because Burj never said the tower would be this empty. There is literally nothing up to the 3rd floor, and the 4th floor has an entire ecosystem growing out of it. He demands to know what kind of sloppy tower does not have a single monster inside. Granada erupts into a full tantrum and says at this rate Burj will not last even a year. The heroes will tear him apart, and there is no way Granada is working in a place like this. Burj slowly stands from the throne and asks if Granada has forgotten. The two of them already made a contract. A wave of demonic pressure crashes down through the chamber, and Granada's knees hit the floor with a crack. Such crushing weight from raw demonic power. He really is a Demon King. Granada's thoughts race sideways in a panic. The tower might be sloppy, sure, but not a single monster of the Urgist Mountains dared attack them on the way up. Those beasts could not risk messing with the Demon King himself. The whole mountain is his domain. Granada drops his forehead to the ground and forces the words out. Yes, a Demon King is still a Demon King, and perhaps he really will get his revenge. In the great name of the World Tree, he vows that from this moment on, his loyalty belongs to Burj for the next 100 years. As he rises, he is already imagining what important role Burji will assign him in the grand evil plan. He will get his vengeance as a part of that plan. All right, Burji says, first prepare him a meal. Granada freezes mid-thought in absolute disbelief. He was supposed to be part of a very important evil plan. Cooking hour on the 3rd floor. Granada glares at raw vegetables and chunks of meat while sharpening a borrowed cleaver against the stone. Then soft footsteps drift down the stairs and a bright voice chimes in. Someone says, "Oh, Granada is cooking," and asks to let her help. She asks if she can make some vegetable bread. Granada looks up and his brain stops working. A pale human woman with platinum hair and shimmering amethyst eyes walks up beside him, and a tiny water spirit floats over her shoulder. Burji's tower 5th floor dining room. The three of them sit around a long dark table under a black iron chandelier. Granada leans across the table toward Burji and whispers hoarsely. He asks if that woman is the Hilderan Kingdom's, and Burji answers between bites that yes, she is, or non-Hilderan. Granada shoots to his feet and asks if Burji is out of his mind. He kidnapped the crown princess, and this tower has nothing. He demands to know how Burji even plans on stopping the heroes when they arrive. That is exactly why Burji bought him, our boy answers calmly. He tells Granada to sit and eat for now. He takes another bite and adds that Granada's cooking is pretty good. Ernan pipes up brightly that she helped too. Granada stares at both of them with wide vacant eyes and asks what in the world is going on. Later on the 4th floor in the sunlit garden, Ernan built Burji and Granada walk between wildflowers. Granada finally asks the question weighing on him. He wants to know if Burji really wants him to fight the heroes here at the tower. Berger shakes his head firmly and says no, not at all. If the heroes have come this far, then the game is already over. Instead, Granada will be disrupting the human world in Berger's place. Granada asks if the Demon King wants him to become a spy, and Berger confirms that yes, he does. But before that, Berger raises both hands and settles into a loose fighting stance. He needs to check Granada's skills first and tells him to come at him. Granada scoffs and asks how he is supposed to beat a Demon King inside his own tower. Then how about this, Berger offers. He will only use one hand, and he will not use his demonic energy at all. Plus, if Granada wins, Berger will reduce their contract's duration by 50 years. Granada's grin sharpens instantly, and he says Berger better keep his word this time. He says he will take Berger on with everything he has got. They clash in the meadow and green windblade energy snaps from Granada's fingertips. He moves like flowing water, with spirit power weaving into every step. Berger slides calmly through it and remarks aloud that Granada's movements are surprisingly sharp for someone who spent so long chained up as a slave. He says Granada must have absorbed the mana on the 4th floor to enhance his physical abilities and calls it a fitting style for an elf. Granada crows back that an average elf cannot even do half of this and tells Berger to blame himself for picking the wrong opponent in the wrong place. Then Granada launches a lightning-fast overhead strike toward Berger's exposed shoulder. Berger is wide open. Granada is going to take his 50 years back right now. Yes, our boy murmurs and says this should do the trick, but he really hopes Granada has not forgotten who his opponent actually is. Berger's aura flares black across the meadow. He adds that he is not trying to use demonic energy, and he will just make sure to control his strength so he does not kill Granada. Granada stammers and tries to say wait, but the fist is already moving. The impact detonates, and Granada goes flying and smashes headfirst through a distant wall. Holton Work. Headquarters of the Red Hawk mercenaries. Bark the bearded captain throws his arms wide as Berger walks in through the door and says it is an honor to see him again. Berger gets straight to business and says he would like to hire the Red Hawks for a year. Bark blinks and says of course. He asks what Berger's budget is. Bark internally considers whether he should just leave town given how badly the guy beat the living daylight out of them last time. Berger sets a heavy leather pouch of gold and silver coins on the table with a heavy clunk and says this is only the deposit. The mercenaries stare at the gleaming pile in dead silence. Then one of them steps forward and swears on behalf of the entire company that they will follow this captain for the rest of their lives. Bark looks at his own crew and mutters sure thanks. He really should get himself a new squad one of these days. Berger sets the second condition and says he needs Granada added to the company. This man will be relaying Berger's orders from now on. The mercenaries snap salutes and shout, "Yes sir, sure thing." One older mercenary starts to protest that having a total stranger inserted into their team is kind of unusual. Granada gives him a sharp elven smile and introduces himself with a polite little bow. He says hello everyone, and that his name is Granada. The room falls into deeply awkward silence. Berger reflects internally that these mercenaries may look mediocre, but they are the seasoned few who actually operate in the brutal Ergest region. He cannot find fighters like them anywhere else on the continent. And the only hero who would ever answer the Hilderan Kingdom's rescue call at this time of year is Hillen Cargill, and that is the very man who defeated the Demon King of Lust. Red Hawk mercenaries, our boy announces coldly. This is their first mission. Investigate Hillen Cargill, the hero employed by Hilderan. Now that our boy has handed the whole hero problem off to Granada, Berger decides it is finally his own turn. From the throne room of his freshly grown tower on Ergest Mountain, he tells himself the plan is simple. He is going to get stronger. Demonic energy points can be spent to reinforce the tower, or the Demon King himself, but since he already sold his entire stockpile to Draxon, he needs another route. There is one. High up in the Ergest Range, where mana storms and powerful monsters keep humans away, nature has been left almost untouched. Spirit blossoms sprout there, and they are small crystalline flowers that drink centuries of pure mana. Absorbing one grants an immediate boost in strength. For demons, the effect is not as clean as demonic energy, but Berger explains to Gordon that Ergest is basically a treasure trove of the things, and he intends to hunt some down himself. Gordon nearly panics and warns his lord that heading out without preparation is risky. It would be like looking for a needle in the desert, and monsters are no different from beasts. The moment they smell an opening, they will attack. Berger shrugs and says he can handle the monsters easily. The real problem is finding the blossoms in the first place. For that, he would need an excellent mana detector. Right on cue, someone knocks. Ernan pokes her blonde head around the door, and a tiny water spirit hovers beside her cheek. She asks in a small voice if they are busy. Berger and Gordon both freeze. The answer to their whole problem is standing in the doorway with a spirit floating over her shoulder. Ernan does not know that yet. She has come to cash in a promise. She tells our boy in a bright and rushed voice that she has been a little bored lately, and she reminds him he swore she could decorate the fourth floor exactly the way she wants. Berger tells her yes, so long as she helps him find spirit blossoms, and Ernan lights up. Inside his head, Berger thinks with a chill that she is already redecorating to her taste, and wonders just how far she is going to take it. Ernan, for her part, cannot quite believe her own nerve, because the fact that she even thought of an idea to decorate a Demon King's tower is already crazy. She just gushes that she did not think she would be allowed to leave the tower. The guy mutters to himself it is a good thing he came by to check. Then he tells her to hold on tight. She barely has time to squeak that she is not ready before he sweeps her up and spreads his wings and launches into the sky. The mountains fall away below them, and Ernan stares down with wide purple eyes. She admits she had not noticed the night she was kidnapped because it was dark, but the world is just so vast. Every single day of her life had repeated itself. Magic training and spiritist training and studying and then repeating. She had thought she would do that until the day she died. Softly, she tells the Demon King that she is probably the only person alive who has ever flown over the Urgist Mountains. Berger answers flatly that he does not care, and says what she has to do is, she cuts him off and insists he call her Ernan. She says they are going to be seeing each other for a while, so it will be for the better. Berger's face darkens. He thinks to himself that he has let her take things her way a little too much. He warns her aloud that it seems she keeps forgetting her place and asks if she would like to be moved to the underground prison. Ernan mumbles a small sorry. Berger orders her to use her spirits to find the blossoms. He thinks the little things probably will not turn up anything quickly, but he is sure they will be faster than either Gordon or him. Minutes later, one of them chimes back with a bright cry and says it found something. There in the snow, a pale blue crystal flower blooms with impossibly pure mana. It is a water and ice attribute spirit blossom called Hyacinth. Before either of them can even reach it, enormous white furred figures rise around them out of the storm. Fuel orcs. Ernan whispers that these things are famous for taking down even ogres when they work together. Berger offers them one warning. Monsters are descendants of demons who left the demon realm long ago. If they still have any honor of demons left in them, they will obey the Demon King's order. He tells them not to touch the spirit blossom and to simply leave. The orcs snarl back and say no, they do not listen to demons' words. They do not like him, and he dies. Our boy lets out a hollow laugh. Gordon was right. Expecting beasts to think was foolish of him. Purple demonic flame ignites along his arms and his eyes go cold. He tells them plainly that he shall simply burn them all to ashes. The orcs charge and scream to kill him and protect what is theirs. Berger answers with a wave of black demonic energy that swallows the mountainside. Explosions and shrieks tear through the blizzard. When the biggest orcs peel off and try to lunge for Ernan, first Berger's attention snaps toward her and he cuts them off with a wall of dark force before they can get close. Ernan clutches the blossom against her chest and watches. Fuel orcs can crush an ogre when they work together, and yet these ones cannot even come near the two of them. Something clicks in her head. So this is the power of the Demon King. When it is over, only the wind is left. Ernan is glowing because she is mesmerized by how pure the mana is in the little crystal in her hands. Berger tells her flatly not to covet it, and she mumbles okay. Then he adds that if she finds more, she can have one, and her whole face lights up. She promises she will try her best. Berger thinks to himself that humans really do only cheer up when someone hands them a carrot. They search until Ernan is exhausted, but no second patch of blossoms ever appears. Back inside Berger's tower, our boy turns the blue crystal over in his palm, while Ernan sleeps curled against his cloak. Crown Princess of Hilderan, Ernan Hilderan. At first, he had thought it was a mistake, but she might turn out to be more useful than he initially thought. Gordon steps in with news and says Granada has just made contact. Bergie raises an eyebrow and says that was quick. The hero Hillen Cargill, along with 32 other heroes, has already departed from the capital of Hilderin, but they are not heading toward Urgest. Gordon lays it out and explains they are going to be showing the classic path of a hero. They will form a party and grow through completing villagers' quests and get stronger through their journey. He respectfully sets down several plans he has prepared for the hero's journey and asks Bergie to please read them slowly. The guy glances once and tells him all of these are dismissed. Gordon nearly chokes. This time our boy explains they will not be sending any monsters or any interruptions to the hero's journey at all. Gordon splutters a stunned response. Half-baked interruptions only make heroes stronger, Bergie tells him. He says to tell this to Granada. Join along the hero's journey with the mercenaries and help them and build their trust. Gordon points out unhappily that he is not following the standards this time either, but admits they cannot stop the heroes with their current tower. Bergie reassures him and says not to worry because he will make sure to reinforce the tower. With a dwarf, Gordon nearly loses his mind and asks what Bergie means. Now he wants a dwarf in here along with the human and the high elf. He says if anyone saw that diminutive species in their tower, they would become a laughingstock. Bergie lets out a small ugh and clarifies that he is not saying they will stop the heroes simply with a dwarf. To be more precise, they need dwarven magical tools. He tells Gordon to think about it for a second. Heroes have grown used to the Demon King standards, our boy points out. They will open the door to the first floor expecting some weak monsters. But what if dozens of cannons welcome them instead? Dozens of cannons on the first floor. The heroes would never be prepared for that. Gordon stammers that even so that is far too removed from the standards, and then it hits him and his jaw drops. Another abduction. Deep beneath the northern ranges in the dwarven underground city of Wolfner, hammers ring against anvils in bursts of orange forge light. This is Logar Friedrich, the best dwarven blacksmith, and he is now scheduled to be kidnapped by a rogue demon king. Wolfner, city of the dwarves. Before he was reborn, our boy had fought countless dwarves in this world and wiped out entire underground cities with monsters. But this is his very first time actually setting foot inside one. Bergie walks through the tight rows of stone buildings with his hood pulled low and hammer strikes ring off every wall. He ducks into a place called the Midnight Inn and tells the innkeeper flatly that he is here to commission a weapon but does not know where to go. He asks where the most outstanding blacksmith in the city is. The gruff dwarf on the other side of the counter chuckles and says for a human this stranger knows how to talk business. He says he has heard dwarves love money just as much as heroes do. Bergie agrees that he is not wrong. The dwarf leans in and lays out directions. He tells Bergie to head to the inside of the city and he will see a huge hole. He says to hop on the lift and they will check his ID and put him on the desired floor. It is a two-step security method built to identify intruders. Two-step security is too much fuss for Bergie's taste. He ignores the lift entirely and slips past the railing and drops straight down into the shaft. His cloak snaps around him as he falls floor after floor after floor. When he lands, he is already at the lowest floor, and he moves toward the deepest room where sparks throw wild orange light across the walls. There, at the anvil, he will find the city's best blacksmith. Hammer swings blur through the air, and forge fire roars. This is Logar Friedrich, and his display of metallurgy makes it seem like the mana around him is dancing. Bergie watches for a moment, and his gaze is cold and evaluating. So is this really the best blacksmith? Now if he could just quietly abduct him and be done with it. He steps forward. In that same instant, Logar's hammer freezes mid-swing. The dwarf's eyes go wide behind the goggles pushed up on his forehead. He sensed that small bit of demonic energy, and he asks himself if this stranger in his workshop could be a... Logar whips around and stares at Bergie with dawning horror. He declares that Bergie is a hero. The words come out of the dwarf's own mouth with strange conviction. He says yes, he is a hero, and his name is Logar Friedrich the blacksmith, who contains the power of heroes. He demands to know how a demon dares enter the land of the dwarves, and warns that the demon will not leave this city alive. The guy's mouth curls. For all that talk, the little man is pretty weak. Also, he is not a demon, he is a demon king. Before Logar can even lift his hammer, the same hammer comes down on his own skull, and the dwarf crumples. The tool clatters to the floor. A moment later, soldiers pound at the workshop door and shout a polite intrusion. They ask Logar what that noise was just now. They push inside and the workshop is empty. Logar is gone. The cry goes up across Wolfner in seconds. There is an intruder and the intruder has abducted Logar. They shout to block all the exits and search the facility thoroughly. They say they could not have gotten far. In a tiny back alley room on the edge of the city, Berger crouches over Logar's tied body. He tells the dwarf plainly that he will kill him in an instant if he makes a sound. Logar's inner voice races and he asks himself why a demon king is here. He wonders if the demon king is here for the dwarven princess. Berger answers flatly that he is not interested in that. Logar snarls that this is lies. Our boy presses on and says he has heard dwarven blacksmiths dig their own underground passage in cases of emergency. He orders Logar to guide him. Sweat rolls down Logar's forehead. He tells himself this demon king must be here for the princess, and curses his luck. The reason he has been living a quiet life until now is precisely because he is too scared to fight demon kings. He asks himself why it had to happen to him. So the world learns his title, which is Dwarven Hero Logar, and he notes that he is weak. Berger shifts tactics. It looks like the little hero will not talk so easily. Then how about this? Our boy will kidnap the princess and let Logar go. Logar's eyes bug out and he asks what Berger is plotting. Berger explains slowly that the selfish hero sold the princess to beg for his own life. If such a rumor were to spread, how will the other dwarves see him? Logar crumbles instantly and stammers that he cannot do that. He curses and calls Berger a vile and evil creature. He says everyone already knows he is really weak, and if a rumor like that were to spread, they would absolutely believe it. He is going to be tortured for the rest of his life. Berger gives him the final choice. He asks if Logar is going to sell the princess out or come along on his own feet. Logar babbles that of course he's going to sell the princess out, but he does not want to be tortured either. The guy offers his terms and says if the dwarf helps him, he will guarantee his safety. He vows on the Demon King's standards. Logar's whole face lights up. Inside his head, he thinks the Demon King's standards is practically the faith every single Demon King worships. There is no way he would break a vow made on it. Logar declares brightly that they should head straight to the underground passage Demon King. Berger looks at him with pure disgust. Logar asks nervously what is with that face. Our boy tells him that he makes him sick. Elsewhere, up in Logar's workshop, where Logar himself is decidedly absent, another figure has arrived. She has pink twin-tail hair and a small gold tiara, and a puffed dress, and a sword strapped nearby. This is Louise Werft, the princess of the Dwarven Kingdom. Louise stares down at the half-melted lump on the anvil and asks very quietly where the little bastard went while he was supposed to be making her weapon. A knight steadies himself and stammers that Logar has been kidnapped. Louise slams her fist down and shrieks at him to shut his mouth. She says Logar is a hero too and asks how it makes sense for a hero to be kidnapped. The knight ventures carefully that Logar may be a hero and also a blacksmith, and that is why he is not so good at fighting. Louise cuts him off and tells him to shut it and go find that damn kidnapper. She says to bring him to her now. The guards choke out a "Yes, Your Highness." She adds that if they do not find him, she is going to pull all of their heads out. They stammer another "Yes, Your Highness." Meanwhile, deep beneath the city in Logar's secret passage, Berger is crawling on his hands and knees behind a dwarf's rear end. He asks flatly how long he is supposed to watch these disgusting buttocks. Logar snaps back that it cannot be helped because the passage is too narrow. Berger orders him to move quickly, and Logar says okay. At last they crawl out into a dim cavern under the mountain. Logar springs upright and dusts himself off with a bright smile. He says this is where his role ends. He showed the Demon King the underground passage, so Berger is on his own now and Logar is out. Berger's eyes narrow and he asks what nonsense Logar is saying. Logar sputters that Berger made a vow on the Demon King's standards. He said he would guarantee Logar's safety if the dwarf helped him. Our boy tilts his head with a slow and mean smile. Oh, does he mean that garbage? He does not give a damn about it. Logar's whole soul leaves his body. He asks what the hell and what kind of Demon King this is. Berger muses aloud about what he should do with him now. Logar mutters that he should have just sold the princess out. Then quick as a rat, Logar pivots. He says he is quite useful actually, and no one can match him in metallurgy. He can craft the Demon King any weapon he wishes. Berger raises a brow and asks if Logar is a hero yet willing to work for a Demon King. Logar shouts that there is nothing to be suspicious about and tells Berger to use him to his convenience. He says he will even be a spy if Berger wants. Inside, only one thought is running on loop, and that is surviving first. The guy gives him a long look and says if Logar is willing to swear his allegiance, he will have his mercy. Logar throws his hands up and cheers loudly. He says thank you so much and hooray to the great Demon King. Inside, meanwhile, the dwarf is already cackling and thinking this dumb demon really thought he would obey. Be his spy, his ass. The moment he gets out of here, Logar is forming a pursuit team, and this Demon King is done for. He will regret letting him go for the rest of his life. Prepare yourself, Demon King. Then everything changes. On the lush fourth floor of Berger's tower in the ecosystem, Ernan has decorated with rivers and meadows and dancing elemental spirits. Logar is now sitting in a patch of grass, with a completely blank expression. Gordon walks in and short-circuits on the spot. He stammers that the Demon King actually brought a dwarf, and a hero dwarf no less. Berger tells him silence. Gordon opens his mouth to add that he has something to report, and then does a double take at Logar. He asks if Berger really brought a dwarf in. Berger tells him to do his report later. Ernan drifts over with her spirits and squints at the little bearded man. She asks if the hero came to save her, and then says probably not right. Logar stays perfectly and tragically silent. Then his mind catches up with his mouth. He asks why he is here because Berger said he would let him go. Berger answers calm as ice that he never said that. Logar flails and insists Berger clearly said he would have his mercy. And Berger points out that he does. He gets to live, does he not? Logar sputters and asks how he ended up here. Our boy shrugs and says he knocked Logar out and carried him back. It is only the natural course of action since he does not know what the little dwarf might do next. Something inside Logar snaps clean in half. He starts laughing. Tears roll straight down his beard as the sound climbs into a full unhinged howl. Berger watches this display with mild interest and asks if he is really that happy to be his subordinate. Logar, choking on his own laughter, cries out, yes, of course, he is very happy. Berger smiles and says that is a great mindset. Here is his mission. Logar whimpers and asks what it is. Rows of black iron cannon barrels swing into view behind our boy's grin. He tells Logar to install a large number of cannons on the first floor to destroy the heroes. At the Urgest Heroes Journey Preparation Station, Granada leans over a crystal ball and reports back to base. There is a rumor going around the heroes' march right now. Apparently the new Demon King can use black flames, so the heroes are already stocking fire-resistant equipment. There are also whispers circling that the reason the new Demon King is not sending out any demonic beasts is because he is scared. Gordon takes it in cool as ice and says he sees the heroes have not lost their killing intent yet. But they will not be able to obtain anything from the hero's march, and no honor from battle and no wealth to speak of. In the end they will lose interest and the heroes will not be able to grow. It is a battle against time and there are no problems. He tells Granada to keep monitoring them. Granada bows and stays quiet a beat after the connection ends. This Demon King is very knowledgeable when it comes to human nature. Just by refusing to send monsters, he is quietly bleeding the heroes dry. Has there ever been a Demon King like him? As our boy walks through a distant doorway and disappears, Granada mutters a single thought to himself. He is glad Berger is not his enemy. Back inside a safe room in the northern lands, Berger briefs Logar on his real mission. There is one restriction though, and he cannot use mana stones. Beyond that, Berger does not care how Logar remodels the first floor of the tower, as long as he abides by that one rule. Logar goes pale and says a trap without a mana stone will not work on the heroes. Our boy tells him flatly that this is his job to figure out. Heroes receive love from this dimension, and their ability to sense energy is outstanding. If Logar builds traps powered by mana stones, the heroes will figure it out before the traps can even activate. Logar protests, but Berger's voice drops. He says he is sure he brought the best blacksmith with him. If he has made a mistake, then he has no choice but to bring someone else here, and this dwarf's future in that world is not a fun one. Logar blurts that he actually invented a magical tool that can hide the traces of mana before. It takes 3 years to create, but he happens to have one sitting in his workshop right now. Berger's eyes narrow into 2 thin slits of purple, and he asks if that is the only excuse Logar could think of to escape. Logar shakes so hard his beard flops and swears he is being serious. Fine, Berger will trust him. But then Logar's fingers touch something suddenly heavy around his throat. He asks what the Demon King put around his neck. The guy explains it easy as reading the weather and says it is a magical tool that can separate his head from his body. Berger can activate it with a single thought. Then a hideous mask covers his face. This second tool makes it so no one can see his features. If Logar ever takes it off, our boy will treat that as him trying to escape. Logar swears through the mask that he will never take it off. Never. And so Berger travels through several kingdoms to gather supplies and mana-type materials. He splits the purchases so no single trail leads back to him. It takes roughly a month to collect everything they need, and all of it is stored inside his subspace pocket. After that, the two of them slip back toward Wolfner. Meanwhile, up in the Dwarven Palace, Louise Werft has been running out of patience for a month and a half already. She demands to know how much longer she needs to remain patient because her guards still have not found the kidnapper. She asks just how incompetent they are. The knight in front of her stammers that the blacksmiths have dug out too many tunnels. They are investigating each and every one, but it is highly likely the kidnapper has already left. Of course they have. Louise snarls back. They would be stupid to still be here. He has been kidnapped. She gives her guards exactly 2 more weeks. If they do not find the kidnapper by then, they are going to die, understood? They promise they will find them. Louise tells them to go and fill in every tunnel the blacksmiths ever dug. Alone in the ruined workshop, Louise picks up a broken piece of what should have been her weapon. Logar made it before he was kidnapped. Her voice softens for one strange moment. She tells Logar to please be alive. He cannot die until he has completed her weapon. Then something quiet shifts in the corner. A section of the wall is sliding open. That is one of his secret tunnels, and only he knows about them. Does that mean Logar is back? A stubby figure with a hideous helmet clambers out of the passage. Logar sees her and freezes and lets out a muffled princess. Louise's expression twists into something between a smile and a scream. She laughs and asks what this is. The bastard came back all right, so he went into hiding because he did not want to make her weapon. She asks if that is it, Logar. Logar stammers that it is a misunderstanding. No. Louise does not think she misunderstood anything at all. She says how dare he insult her, the princess. From now on he is her slave. He will make her weapons for the rest of his life. But before that she is going to punish him for running away. Logar shrieks and begs to be spared. That is when Berger decides he has heard enough. A pulse of dark force blasts into the room, and Louise skids back with her hair whipping. She demands to know who he is. Our boy ignores her and turns to Logar. He tells him to get the equipment he needs. Logar scrambles across the torn-up floor of the workshop, which is currently under reconstruction after the investigation. Louise's glare snaps back to the intruder. She demands to know who the hell he is and why he is helping that despicable dwarf. Berger answers cool and mocking that he is the master of the pitiful blacksmith she was extorting. Louise spits nonsense. She says Logar is her slave and he is going to make her weapons forever. She asks who he is to take Logar from her. She lunges and her tiny fist crashes into the space where Berger's head was a heartbeat ago. The impact cracks a pillar clean through and the shockwave sends dust up to the ceiling. The guy throws up a wall of purple demonic force just in time to catch her second punch. He glances at Logar on the ground and starts to tell the dwarf it is his turn now, but Louise is already back on him with fists like hammers. This is Louise Werft, the Dwarven Kingdom's second princess. Although she is not a hero, she is exceptionally strong. Berger's mind races between blocks. Before he regressed, this girl was one of the strongest fighters he had ever met, and way stronger than she is now. He could kill her right here before she gets to grow, sure, but then he would have to burn through his entire remaining strength and demonic energy. He is also nowhere near as strong as he was before he regressed. If he empties his reserves in this workshop, he might just get captured by her soldiers when they swarm in, and since he has already used his power, she now knows for certain he is a demon king. How annoying. At his feet, Logar is frantically dismantling a machine roughly 5 meters tall, with hundreds of cables snaking off it and coiled through the entire wall. This is Mana's Phantom. Its ability is hiding traces of mana. Its size is extremely large. Its creator is Logar Friedrich. Our boy snarls down at him that if Logar wants to die, sure, take his time, but he should finish it within a minute. Logar wails and swears he will go as fast as he can. Luis catches sight of the dismantling and howls that no one said he could do that. She says if push comes to shove, she is going to leave the intruder behind first. Loger sobs and says, okay, he will wrap this up quickly. Berger thinks grimly that he has no idea how long he can actually last. Not without his real strength. Not without his demonic energy. Luis tells him plainly that she does not know where he came from, but he will not leave this place alive. And Loger, she is going to break his legs so he can never escape again. Berger smirks even under the pressure and says she sounds just like a demon king herself. He tells the second princess of the dwarves to give it up because he is taking her blacksmith and this equipment. Loger yells out that he has dismantled it. Luis screeches and calls Loger a motherfucker. She asks if he came back to take that and if he thinks she is that easy. Berger's eyes find the crack in her stance and lock on. There it is, an opening. He drives a purple fist straight into her guard and hammers her back through the workshop wall. Then he whips around and shouts for Loger to move out of the way as he snaps open his subspace pocket. Luis howls that attack is useless against her, but the giant tower of Magi engineering is already gone. It is sucked into thin air, and Berger is already vanishing after it into the tunnel behind them. Down at the other end of the workshop, the soldiers finally come pounding in. They ask the princess what is going on. Luis is bleeding from the mouth and roars back that they are slowpokes. She asks if they are planning to arrive after she is already dead. She says Loger ran away and tells them to chase him through the tunnel. As they rush past her, she stares at the sealed collapse ahead and something small breaks in her face. Luis asks herself if he really blocked the tunnel. She wonders if he really did not want to make her weapon that badly. Luis stands in the wreckage with tears of pure fury streaming down her cheeks. How interesting. How very interesting, Loger. Fine. She will personally search for him even if she has to scour the entire continent, and she will definitely make him regret what he did today. Loger? On the first floor of Berger's tower, a 5-meter tower of Magi engineering now sits waiting. Loger dusts off his hands and announces that the installation of Mana's Phantom is complete. Berger raises an eyebrow and says that was fast. He tells Loger to activate it. Our boy warns him plainly that after all the trouble they went through to drag the thing back here, it had better be worth it. Loger squawks that of course it will be and reaches for the trigger. The whole hall floods with blinding blue light. Hernan and Loger stumble back, shielding their eyes as Mana's Phantom spins to life. Then a system window blinks into being right before Berger's face. The tower recognizes Mana's Phantom. Synchronization with the tower requires 10,000 points and asks if he would like to synchronize. Berger's eyes narrow. The tower had a function like that. He decides he will confirm it himself. Points consumed. 11,182 drops to 1,182 in a single instant. A second window opens. Mana's Phantom recognizes Demon King Berger Deus as its master. The power source of Mana's Phantom has been completely converted from mana to demonic energy. Berger's head snaps around. He says Loger's name. The dwarf flails his arms and swears in a panicked squeal that he did not do it, and he never once imagined merging with a tower was even possible. The power source changed from mana straight to demonic energy, and this is the discovery of the century Demon King. Even the creator himself did not know that could happen. The guy ignores the babbling. He tells the princess to try using any spell. Hernan stands off to one side with her spirits and blinks at him. She asks any, yes, whatever he wants. Hernan lights up and says, okay, whatever she wants it is. Fire and water and wind and earth all rush together into a single roaring vortex that tears across the newly polished floor. Loger clutches his beard and howls that he just cleaned this tower. Gordon's own voice booms across the hall and tells her to stop it. Our boy steps back from the mess Hernan just accidentally created and thinks it over. Normally casting a spell of that caliber inside the tower should be detectable even from the outside. Berger walks straight out of the front doors and stares back at his own building through the falling snow, and yet he cannot see anything inside. In fact, he cannot even feel a single presence. Is this the power of a tower synchronized with Mana's Phantom? He tests something bigger. If he manipulates the tower in this state, the whole thing vanishes. Where 100-meter Demon King's fortress stood a moment ago, there is only the mountain wind. He waves his hand back, and the tower slams into view again with black stone against white sky, so he can hide the tower as he wishes. His demonic energy points drop from 1182 down to 137 because it guzzles points like nothing else. But our boy is already grinning. Using it right now is difficult, but it will be very useful going forward. Back inside, Logar is nearly climbing Burge's leg with excitement. He begs for just a tiny bit. He asks if he can examine both the device and the tower. He says he has never heard or seen anything like this in all of history, past or present. He begs the Demon King to allow him to examine this historic discovery. Burge watches him vibrate and thinks to himself that the little dwarf sounds like a demon itching for a fight. Fine. If Logar's trap wipes out the heroes on the first floor, our boy will let him do whatever he wants. Logar lets out a full-throated yahoo and hugs one of his newly built mana cannons. He swears he will absolutely sweep those crafty heroes away. Burge leaves the dwarf to his artillery and heads for the fourth floor. He tells the princess he has a proposal for her too. He wants her to face the heroes who make it up to the fourth floor. Ernan's whole face freezes. She asks what and says she is supposed to fight the heroes. But she is a princess. The young man answers evenly that she is also a genius spiritist who does not want to return to her own royal palace. Then his voice trails and he thinks it through more carefully. Maybe it really is unreasonable to assign an innocent princess who does not know how the world works a role like this. Betraying her own kind might genuinely be too much to ask. But Ernan is already thinking out loud. She asks what she fights with. Fire or water? No rocks. Little spirits pop up around her head as she counts them off. Burge sighs. Never mind, she only needs to fluster the heroes. Just reveal to them that she is an enemy. If it goes well, he will grant her whatever she wants again. Her eyes sparkle instantly. Okay, she will look for an opening. But she has one condition. She wants to be introduced as the Demon King's subordinate, not as a princess. Burge pauses at that and then nods. Fine, he agrees. That much is easy to do. Ernan twirls in place and is thrilled. She starts wondering aloud how she is actually supposed to fight and asks if she should use her looks to seduce them. She says she is confident in that department. The guy stares at her flat as pavement. No, just do what he told her. Standing back in the throne room, Burge runs the math internally. With this, preparations are more or less complete. They will reduce the number of heroes with mass mana cannons on the first floor. Then on the fourth floor, they finish them off using the princess as bait. Still, his eyes darken as he pictures the march coming up the mountains. It is far from enough. As things are, now he cannot even cut down half the heroes who number over 200. His gaze drifts to the pale blue hyacinth flower resting in a small container on the shelf. A hyacinth, and it is an ice and water elemental spirit blossom with status contaminated by demonic energy. Blossoms tainted this way are especially effective against demons. He will have to gather more. Deep in a snow basin far from the tower, our boy stops and scans the ground with a scowl. There is none out here either. Ernan reminds him that this is already their third try, and maybe they just got lucky last time. She frowns as her spirits circle her. This is strange. Then the snow behind them shifts. Massive white-furred figures rise out of the drifts. Burge's mouth curls into a tired smirk. Fuel orcs again. He has gotten sick of them. Except the largest one drops to its knees. It bows its skull-marked head all the way down to the snow with red war paint fresh across its fur. It speaks in a booming rumble and says it is Krutu, chieftain of the Blue Frost tribe. It greets the Demon King and asks him to please accept the tribe as his kin. Burge freezes mid-step. Krutu bows again deeper. Please accept them as his kin. He wants Burge to take them in as kin. Krutu explains that his ancestors were demons who betrayed the demon realm long ago. Since the tribe still bears that original sin, they beg for the honor of serving the Demon King. Burge cuts him off. Enough. Save the sweet talk. In the end, Krutu just wants his tribe to become stronger by becoming a Demon King's kin. After all, fuel orcs are better suited for demonic energy than for spirit blossoms. Krutu's beast eyes gleam, and he says to think the Demon King has seen through everything already. There is no point in hesitating then. He barks an order over his shoulder and tells them to bring it. Two of his warriors haul forward a heavy chest and throw the lid open. Inside, packed row after row, glow crystalline flowers of every color. Burge's face goes still. So that is why they could not find any out here. Fluent speech and prepared negotiations, and Krutu even knows how to trade. Our boy remarks that the chieftain is unusually intelligent for a fuel orc. Krutu answers plainly that, to survive in this harsh land, his tribe valued wisdom over strength. And in return, Krutu tilts his massive head and says, "The Demon King came all the way out here looking for more blossoms because he lacks strength, did he not? Wisdom over strength." Berger repeats the phrase and lets a real smile pull at his mouth. He likes this one. Very well. But he will only take in Krutu himself, not the whole tribe. Krutu jerks upright in surprise. Berger's demonic sigil blooms in the snow at his chest. He tells the chieftain to roam the snowfields and grow his tribe for his sake. Wait for his orders. He will reward Krutu with something greater than strength. The mark burns onto Krutu's chest. Your tribe shall be eternal. Krutu race fuel orc status Demon King's kin. The chieftain collapses to his knees again, this time in genuine reverence. He says thank you and that he will devote his tribe's loyalty to the Demon King. Behind him, the entire Blue Frost tribe drops as one and roars back through the snow. They will devote their loyalty. Above the mountains, black stone rises against white sky. Urgest Mountains, Berger's tower at full force. Outside the tower, the Fuel Orc Legion arrays itself in ranks along the slopes. On the first floor, Loger stands beside 60 mana cannons, cracking his knuckles. On the fourth floor, in Ernan's rolling ecosystem of flame spirits and drifting butterflies, the princess stretches. In the throne room, our boy folds his hands behind his back. Now, all the pieces are in place. Come, heroes. He will repay them for humiliating him in his previous life. Far to the south, at the edge of the Urgest Range, an armored knight with wavy blonde hair and a blue cape crests a rise. Beside him, a tall elf with a long green braid falls in step. Granada says they have finally arrived. Hillen confirms. The Urgest Mountains are in sight. Behind Hillen, Cargill, and Granada, the full hero party spreads across the snow. Over 200 armored figures march straight toward Berger's front door. In the great hall of the fortress at Horton Walk, the last banquet before the final push glows warm with candlelight and wine. The old fortress master lifts his cup and thanks Hillen Cargill for this wonderful banquet in his honor. Hillen laughs modestly and says the fortress master flatters him. The old man tells him he is glad he gets to remain with the hero on a page of history. Hillen thanks him for saying that. Then the fortress master turns to him with a suggestion and says Hillen really should give a speech. Hillen blinks. But the fortress master presses and says they are all waiting. It will help raise their morale too. In that case, Hillen agrees. The fortress master calls the hall to attention and says Hillen would like a few words. Hillen clears his throat and steps up. He addresses everyone as fellow comrades and heroes and nobles and knights and wizards and mercenaries and merchants and others. He says the long-awaited Heroes' March has finally reached its final stretch. The Demon King might have been spooked by the march of the heroes who answered the call of justice, which could be why he has not sent a single monster over. Laughter ripples through the crowd. But Hillen says they will not let their guard down because they have finally completed preparing after all this time. He raises his goblet and says tomorrow is the day. They will make the foolish Demon King pay for daring to kidnap the kingdom of Hilderan's Princess Arnon. He asks who they are and who is the master of this world. He says to let them remind them once again of these facts. For justice. The whole hall roars back for justice. Down at the long table, Granada picks at his food and lets his thoughts drift. Just as the Demon King expected, the number of heroes did not increase. On the other hand, they did not decrease either. Hillen's popularity has kept the Heroes' March intact this far. He secured full support from the merchant guilds and even soothed the nerves of the mercenaries who tried to desert and dragged them along to this point. Granada glances at the man laughing across the table and feels his stomach drop. The last time he saw the tower with his own eyes, it was completely empty. Will it not fall at this rate? He wonders if he should just smack the back of a few heroes' heads right now and slow the whole march down. Then his own thought hits him and he jerks upright. No. What is he thinking? The subjugation succeeding is actually good for him since it means he will be freed. Get a grip, Granada. Let him get some air and report in. Under the fortress balcony, in the quiet of the mountain night, Granada raises a small crystal orb. He tells his lord flatly that they have arrived at Horton. After a short resupply, they will climb the mountains tomorrow. Our boy tells Granada that once he leaves Horton, he should not contact him anymore, and there are things he needs to look out for. Watch the snow when they climb the mountains. Do not let their guard down at night. And lastly, when the heroes open the tower, stand far from it. Granada frowns and asks what he means by that. A soft click cuts the connection dead. Granada stares at the dark orb in his palm. What was that? He barely has time to think when a voice behind him makes him jump. Hillen wanders out onto the balcony with 2 cups and asks what Granada is doing here all by himself. Granada stammers that it is nothing, and he was just getting a bit of fresh air. He asks if something is wrong. Hillen just holds out a cup and asks if he would like a drink. He says it is fruit wine the elves like. Granada takes it slowly and thanks him. Hillen leans on the railing and studies him. He says Granada looks like he has something on his mind and asks if they can actually subdue this demon king. Granada tries a small laugh and asks if Hillen is nervous too. Well, yes, Hillen admits. To be honest, he does not really know either. Even though people trust him and follow him, subjugating a demon king's tower is always hellish. Not once has it ever gone smoothly. Granada nudges carefully and asks if Hillen did not kill the demon king of lust and absorb his power. He says compared to that, a new demon king should be a piece of cake. Come to think of it, no one really knows how Hillen killed the demon king of lust. He asks Hillen to please tell him the heroic tale. Hillen is quiet for a long moment. Then he lifts his head and smiles. He says it was only possible because he had brave comrades. Comrades like Granada who are always at the front taking care of the monsters. Hillen blinks and mumbles that he will lead them, so Granada should protect his flank. He nods and says if they combine their strength he is sure they will win. Then Granada answers slowly and says that is what he will do. Hillen claps him on the back and tells him to come on and go back inside. The fortress master wants to hear his adventure stories. As they walk back through the arch, Hillen trails a step behind. Yes, he joined forces with brave comrades. Please take care of him again this time, Granada the elf. By morning, Horton Walk's streets are packed shoulder to shoulder. Bright banners flap in the mountain wind and gold-armored heroes march out through the gate. The crowd screams itself hoarse. The march of the heroes is here. The Urgest mountain range rises ahead of them. Deep in the mountains at the Urgest Mountains Gorge, the party moves in tight formation through a narrow passage. A mage in the middle ranks pipes up cheerfully. He says he was worried because they were coming to the Urgest range, but turns out it is nothing special. The weather is clear and it is not even snowing much. At this rate, they will reach the tower without any trouble. He says the goddess of victory is on their side. They said disaster-class monsters were everywhere in Urgest, but he asks if they are hibernating or something. With Hillen here, even the monsters must be scared. That is when the sky above them cracks open. Something wet lands on the mage's head. He looks up. Ghouls. There are ghouls on the cliffs. He asks what is with their size because enormous humanoid shapes are dropping out of the ice walls with jaws stretched too wide. They have finally shown themselves. Hillen yells at the top of his lungs for all units to get into battle formation and for no one to panic. He tells them to protect the comrades around them and to remember the gorge is not long. Knights need to cover the mages and pull back. Then the passage ahead of them freezes solid. Wharton shouts that a frost giant has appeared at the front. Hillen's eyes go wide and he barks for everyone to fall back. A skeletal figure the size of a small tower rises across the mouth of the gorge with ice crystals streaming from its ribs and red eyes burning. Hillen turns to Wharton and says while he deals with the frost giant, everyone else needs to get out of the gorge. Wharton chokes and asks if Hillen will deal with it alone. Hillen draws his sword and a rope of blue light coils along the blade. He says it will not be a problem. He thinks it through calmly as he steps forward. A frost giant cannot possibly be stronger than the demon king of lust, so the giant is dealt with the way a mountain is dealt with. Find the crack and hit it hard. Hillen slides in low under a sweeping arm and comes up spinning inside the giant's guard. He drives the blue slash straight up its spine. Now, he kicks off the shattered ribs and hurls his voice back down the gorge. He shouts, "Now everybody run." The party scrambles. The path is blocked, but they hurry while they still can. Behind them, the frost giant folds and explodes across the walls in ice and blood. The ghouls follow in a rain of clean cuts. When the survivors regroup on the far side, panting into their gloves, the whispers start. Dozens of ghouls and a frost giant taller than the cliffs, and this place is insane. Even a demon king's tower is not like this. Still, their casualties are relatively low. If it were not for Hillen, the damage would have been much worse. They say he has already killed a demon king once and absorbed his power. Could he really be comparable to a demon king himself? Since he has already killed one, would he not be even stronger by now? Someone laughs with relief and says if they just trust Hillen, they have nothing to worry about. Granada watches this quietly and feels something ugly rise up his throat. Seriously, if it is Hillen, this hero might actually defeat that Demon King. Ahead of the party, Hillen flicks blood off his blade with a small, confident smile. Then a wet rumble rolls down the ridge above them. A wall of blue-faced snow orcs steps down out of the drifts. Krutu, chieftain of the Blue Frost tribe, stands at the front with a curved black blade over his shoulder. Wharton mutters that they are fuel orcs. There is no time to rest. Hillen's breath fogs faster because he can feel demonic energy on them. These ones are the Demon King's subordinates. Krutu's voice booms through the gorge and he welcomes the foolish heroes to Urgist. Wharton scoffs that they are easy opponents and says he will take care of them in no time. Granada suddenly grabs Hillen's arm. He says, "Wait, Hillen," and asks about this sound. In his memory, a voice cold as a frozen river repeats a warning that made no sense last night. Watch the snow. Granada stammers and asks if that warning meant what he thinks it meant. Krutu is already smiling with all his fangs and says not a single one of them will reach the tower. Somewhere far above the gorge along a ridge no hero can see, the fresh snowpack that has been quietly building all winter simply stops holding. It cracks in one long shudder and starts to move. Granada's face turns to paper as he stares up the slope. He asks himself how the hell he is supposed to watch out for this. He calls the Demon King a crazy bastard. It is an avalanche. He screams for everyone to run. A tidal wave of white smashes down the gorge and swallows the frost giant's corpse, and swallows the ghouls, and swallows the shrieking knights. In the throne room, our boy stands with his hands folded behind his back and watches it all through his own senses. His mouth pulls slowly into a grin. Once again, welcome heroes. This time our boy's smile stretches wider. He is going to hunt them all down. The way our boy tells it, this whole disaster comes down to 3 warnings he gave Granada before the heroes ever set foot on Urgist. And every single warning lands right on schedule. Warning number 1 is the snow. Sitting in his tower, Berger explains without a flicker of emotion that those Pule orcs actually triggered an avalanche. The white wave crashes down the ridges and sweeps the hero column apart. Hillen's voice cuts through the panic as he orders his people to camp and search for the ones lost in the drift. Hillen curses the Demon King and the situation and everything. Warning number 2 is that Berger told Granada never to let his guard down at night. There are frost giants and ghouls prowling the peaks, and those Pule orcs are herding every monster on the mountain straight at the hero column. Wharton snaps out battle orders while Granada curses the swarming beasts. Our boy narrates the reality of it with a small fanged smile. An avalanche by day and a herd of monsters by night. The pattern repeats endlessly. Before long, the heroes will inevitably start dropping. 3 days into the Urgist Mountains, the headcount falls from 511 down to 256. When the survivors drag themselves to the tallest summit and find nothing waiting there, Hillen asks quietly why the tower is not here. Someone else points out that it is basic common sense for a Demon King's tower to sit somewhere easy for heroes to spot. And then Hillen snaps and screams into the empty air about why it is not here. That is when the party splits. Warden kneels in the snow and gently tells Hillen that they are going to give up. He is sorry, but their lives matter more, and this hero's journey is a failure. Hillen grinds his teeth so hard the muscles jump in his jaw, but he lets them walk down the mountain. On day 6, the ones who stayed finally spot the tower tucked into a basin, as if Berger personally chose the ugliest hole he could find just to insult them. The headcount ticks again. 256 shrinks to 52. The remaining heroes laugh through the exhaustion and shout to wipe them all out, since the first floor is only going to have weaklings anyway. Warning number 3, Berger adds softly. When they open the tower, stand far from it, because he plans to deal with them in one shot with the dwarf's mana cannons. The tower door swings open. A hero's eyes go wide at the ribbon of white light coiling inside, and then the world detonates in one blinding flash of blue mana fire. When the light clears, the headcount drops from 52 down to 1. That 1 is Hillen Cargill, and even Berger sounds impressed as he mutters that even 60 cannons were not enough to bring the man down. Hillen stands alone in the smoking ruin of the entrance and spits curses about how nothing this Demon King does makes any sense. He says nothing about what has been happening as usual. Granada crawls out of the wreckage and Hillen grabs him with a bark of relief. Granada tells him he just barely avoided the blast. Hillen straightens up and declares they are going upstairs together, just the two of them. He tells his brave comrade that the hero who killed the Demon King of Lust and absorbed his power is more than a match for a newcomer. He calls Granada more than enough backup. Granada dips his head with a small obedient okay and thinks nothing more of it. The second floor is empty. The third floor is empty. Hillen mutters that this place should be overflowing with monsters, yet there is no one here and anything could jump out at this point. And then they open the fourth floor door onto a full-blown forest with grass rippling in a breeze and water running somewhere out of sight and trees swaying softly. Hillen asks the empty air whether they are really inside a Demon King's tower because it sure does not feel like it. A light footstep answers him. From behind a curtain of falling petals, a masked figure calls out and says she sees he somehow managed to make it up here. She strikes a pose and declares that she is one of the 4 heavenly kings who protects the Demon King. She says she is the dark spiritist, and she will be his opponent. Hillen stares and asks what any of that even is. Then the mask tilts up just enough for him to see her face. Every muscle in his face goes slack and he whispers her name. Princess Ernan. The girl tucks her chin and mumbles that she will retreat quietly for now. Then she squeaks in a panicked voice that she is not a princess and she is the dark spiritist. Hillen asks her, almost pleading, why she looks like that. She screams her denial again and throws her hands up. She tells them to witness the power of darkness. Fire and water and wind and earth spirits erupt around her in a blinding halo of the 4 elements at once, and Hillen's stomach drops. That is the highest rank spirit magic only Princess Ernan can wield. It cannot be used while she is being controlled, which means she is not being controlled at all. Burgie's checklist runs through Hillen's head. Pule orcs and avalanches and ambushes at night, and a tower hidden in a basin. Mana cannons on the first floor, and empty second and third floors, and now a crazy princess attacking the hero who came to save her. Hillen starts laughing, and it is a broken, cracked sound. He does not get it. He does not know what is happening anymore. The princess is attacking the hero who came to save her. Fine then. He will just destroy everything. That is when Burgie asks him calmly whether he really thinks he can do it. The guy steps forward for the first time and he is wrapped in a corona of purple demonic flame. He tells the hero that at last and at long last he can see his face. Hillen Cargill. Hillen's inner voice trembles with rage that the Demon King has finally shown himself. He needs more strength, and Granada is right over there. Hillen roars at his brave comrade to combine their strength with him. Granada barely gets out a confused word before something inside him rips loose. His energy is draining out of his body from the inside. Hillen reminds him gently and almost fondly that he already told him. As long as Granada stays by his side, there is no problem. Hillen raises a hand crowned with a green glowing ring and explains with terrible calm that this is a forbidden artifact called the Elf Eater. It converts an elf's infinite vitality into raw mana. Its one flaw is that once activated, the elf dies before long. Hillen smiles down at the elf and asks whether he is fine with this because after all it is for the greater good. His lips barely move. Swindler. Hypocrite. Hillen laughs delightedly and tells the elf he likes how vile and lowly he is. Our boy tilts his head, still calm, and asks softly, "So if he just takes off that ring, the hero becomes weak again. Is that it?" Hillen whips his head around and snarls at Burgie to try it if he can, because even the Demon King of Lust himself could not pry this ring off his finger. A red circle burns into the air with a single word inside it. Gordon. Hillen's hand is gone. He stares at the bloody stump and screams that his hand is gone, and asks how because he did not feel a single presence. Gordon's voice replies dryly from behind him that Hillen is both rude and noisy for a human. Hillen spins and tries to process a high-ranking demon materializing out of nothing. He mutters in disbelief that he was taken down by a mere high-ranking demon even while using an artifact. Then Burgie's shadow falls across him and the Demon King tells him softly that he is not going anywhere. Hillen tells himself he has to dodge, and above him a massive dragon of pure purple demonic flame unfolds its wings with its jaw glowing with lightning and its eyes burning white. Hillen's own voice cracks. He cannot dodge this. Our boy looms over the ruined field with a slow demonic grin and tells Hillen Cargill that it is time to take a beating. The magic circle collapses inward, and the fourth floor blooms into a pillar of violet light. Someone somewhere asks the only question left in the room. Just who is this demon king? The purple fires of our boy's finishing strike dissipate over the fourth floor, and Berger stands panting in the aftermath with one hand braced against the ruined ground. He forces his breathing back under control and then mutters that the hero is impressive because he is still alive after taking that shot. He orders his people to bind Hillen's hands and throw him in the underground prison and to lock up the other humans who collapsed outside the tower door too. Someone answers with an obedient understood. Then Berger kneels beside Granada. The elf lies broken on the grass, staring into the middle distance and whispering that he can see the afterlife. The guy presses a red glowing hand to Granada's forehead and tells him cheerfully that he worked hard and here is a carrot. Granada gasps a thank you and then goes still. His eyes flutter, and then he explodes back to consciousness with a shout that he has fully recovered. He asks what just happened, and Berger casually adds that he will give Hernan a spirit blossom on top. She beams up at him gratefully. Berger turns to Loger. Our boy grants the dwarf permission to dismantle the tower's cannon setup as a reward for his hard work. Loger throws his arms up and howls thank you, Demon King, with a genuine woohoo. Berger looks at him silently for a beat and then addresses the whole floor. He orders everybody to restore and maintain the level they were assigned to. He walks away across the meadow of the fourth floor with his black coat rippling. Granada watches him go and murmurs that even after such a fierce battle, the Demon King still looks completely fine, as expected of a Demon King. Hernan hums thoughtfully, and Granada asks the princess what is wrong. Hernan says it is nothing. It is just that she thinks the Demon King is tired. She is right. Inside his throne room alone, our boy's hand shakes uncontrollably. Sweat runs down his temples. He gasps out that was so close. A Demon King cannot afford to show weakness. Berger curses that damn human Hillen Cargill under his breath and admits to himself that so this is what it means to be one of the 10 stars. He walks himself through what the 10 stars are. They are the 10 strongest heroes on the continent, and an elite tier that towers over everything else. And although Hillen Cargill is one of them, he is one of the weakest ones. Even the weakest of that 10 nearly killed him. Berger admits with a grimace that, to be honest, he has barely used any demonic energy points to strengthen his body in this life. Perhaps because of that, his body wobbles a lot. If Hillen Cargill had been in perfect condition, Berger never would have won. Then he thinks through what actually worked. His plan exhausted the hero. It triggered him. It threw him into a panic. Because of everything that had happened, Hillen's field of view narrowed, and he showed an opening. And as a result, Berger's all-out strike landed. He tells himself out loud that for now he has achieved a perfect victory without ever following the Demon King's standards. This never happened in his past life. The guy stares at his own trembling hand and says quietly that he was able to successfully alter fate. In his memory, the cracked skull helmet of his old death shatters again. He tells himself he can do it. He can change the future. He can get revenge on those damn heroes. The grin that spreads across his face is not a Demon King's grin. It is a survivor's. Meanwhile, the news moves faster than the tower. In the Holton Walk press conference hall, a wall of reporters swings mana orb cameras and demands accountability from the investor side. They ask who is responsible for this failure. Wharton in armor insists that they have not failed yet. There is still hope. Sir Hillen Cargill and the great heroes have not given up. They are still searching for the Demon King's tower. So if the investors would just give them a bit more time. News of the new Demon King spreads rapidly across the entire continent. In the throne room of Hilderan, the lion-headed king slams his fist and roars that damn bastard Hillen Cargill talked big, and now what? If Hillen cannot rescue his princess, the man will be executed. An advisor tries to bring up the hero's journey, but Louise does not care. She orders his court to just find Loger. Meanwhile, the story of the expedition gets distorted and exaggerated as it travels through the taverns and marketplaces. They say Sir Hillen Cargill never came back. Some say he is already dead. The world sinks into deep sorrow, and because of that, Berger's demonic energy point counter climbs cleanly past 290,000. Human misery converts to fuel at a beautiful rate. At the Heroes Guild headquarters, Wharton stands at a podium under interrogation. A voice from the assembled hero elite asks whether there is not even a hair's breadth of falsehood in what he reported. Wharton swears on his own name that he spoke only the truth. Then this is a serious matter, another voice replies. A more cautious one adds that since they do not know the identity of the new Demon King, they should be careful. And then a shadowed figure with two glowing white eyes speaks the verdict. Hillen Cargill is one of the 10 stars, and he cannot be brought down easily. They will wait 10 more days for news of him. If there is still nothing after 10 days, all 4,725 heroes on the continent will launch a full-scale assault and eliminate the new Demon King. Beneath the tower in the underground prison, Hillen Cargill hangs from chains with his hands over his head. He is bruised and filthy and awake. A voice from outside the cell notes that even his recovery speed is exceptional. Hillen looks up and tells the Demon King to get to the point. If he is being kept alive, then the Demon King must want something from him. No point beating around the bush. Our boy smiles and says it is nice to see the hero is open to talking. Then he drops the offer. Become my vassal. Hillen stares and asks quietly whether he heard wrong. Berger leans against the bars and starts laying out the trap the hero has been living in. The hero's journey costs a lot of money. Food for hundreds and security expenses and lodging and membership dues and armor and weapons and top-grade consumables. Usually those costs are covered by investments from merchant groups and nobles. If the Demon King is defeated, the hero's lives are turned around. But if they fail, they end up buried in debt. That is what happens to heroes who take investments. And this time all investments were focused on just one person, and that is the hero party's captain, Hillen Cargill. In other words, him. Hillen's face collapses inward. His inner voice admits Berger is right. Even if he escapes this place, he will be branded a failed hero and forced to live in hiding for the rest of his life while creditors track him down. He asks aloud how the Demon King could possibly know all that. Granada steps into view from the shadows and answers casually that he told him. Hillen snaps and screams that Granada betrayed them. Granada bares his teeth and snarls that Hillen has some nerve to say that after what Hillen did to him, scammer. Granada was on this side from the very beginning. Berger takes over again and tells Hillen that the reason the hero failed is because there has never been a Demon King like Berger until now. But just as Berger broke the Demon King standards, Hillen will eventually adapt and find a way to clear his tower. However, if one of the strongest heroes secretly interferes with those plans, then can the humans really succeed? The guy raises a small purple orb between his fingers. It has a name, and it is called Armani's Orb. Berger explains that this is a magic tool used to monitor his subordinates. Once it enters the body, it clings to the brain in an instant. He will know immediately if the wearer bears any hostility toward him, and he can blow the wearer's brain apart with a single gesture. Then he mutters aside that this thing was pretty expensive. He walks toward the cell with the orb held out. If the orb fails to adapt to Hillen's body, Berger will consider it as Hillen rejecting him and he will kill him. There are plenty of usable heroes anyway. Hillen panics and blurts out that a hero as strong as him is immune to mind control magic. The moment that orb enters his body, it will just disappear. It is not his fault. Granada stands by with windblade energy sparking off his fingertips and sneers that a hero can dispel their mental defense by their own will. Our boy echoes flatly and says you heard him. Hillen thrashes and screams that Granada is a deranged elf and should be ashamed of himself. Granada barks back that Hillen is the one who should be ashamed. Hillen tries one more line and says that Berger is just going to waste a precious magical tool and he will never submit to a Demon King. Berger cuts him off. Shut up and swallow. And he shoves the orb straight into Hillen's mouth. Hillen convulses. Purple veins crawl up his throat and into his skull. Berger watches with cold calm and mutters that the man is really tenacious. Granada asks what they will do if the hero simply chooses death over compliance. Berger tells him not to worry. Then he says the truth quietly. A greedy human who treats his comrades like they are disposable because of money will never sacrifice himself. Not for pride, not for freedom, not for anything. The demonic system logs Hillen's new state above his slumped form. Hillen Cargill. Equipment Armani's. Status Demon King's vassal. Gordon appears at Berger's shoulder. Although the Demon King has made Hillen Cargill his vassal, Gordon points out that with a massive debt of 100,000 gold hanging over the hero, his activities will be heavily restricted. and the gold coins Berger previously exchanged for demonic energy points only amounted to almost 2,000 gold. That is a sum comparable to a small nation's annual budget. He asks how the Demon King plans to gather more. Our boy smiles and says it is about time he got a message. Gordon blinks and asks pardon. Right on cue, a floating invitation shimmers into being beside Berger's shoulder. Berger explains that he is talking about the gathering of Demon Kings held once a year, and it is called the Unison of Towers. In his previous life he never attended because he thought Demon Kings banding together was disgusting, but those other Demon Kings have survived in Irene for a long time. They must have piled up plenty of gold and treasure. Gordon nearly loses his mind and shrieks at the Demon King, asking if he is trying to exchange his demonic energy points for money again. Berger replies with a serene grin that yes, that is what he would have said in the past. However, after dealing with the heroes directly, he understands now. If they had followed the Demon King's standards, they would not have been able to stop the heroes. So now he has no choice but to admit it. An invitation to the Unison of Towers has arrived, and Berger accepts it with a widening smile. He tells his lieutenant simply to come along. Gordon asks in dread what they are going to do there. Berger's grin sharpens. They are going to swindle his senior Demon Kings. The proper Demon Academy top graduate and the loyal servant of tradition clenches his fists and bellows through the tears that he can believe in his Demon King. The Tower of Lies rises from a still lake, and on its 13th floor, inside the Demon King's own chamber, the round table is already surrounded when our boy steps through the door. Berger pauses in the entrance in his Demon King form and remarks that even though he is not late, they are all already here. He asks whether they have a lot of things to discuss without him. His name announces itself in the air. Berger Dias, Demon King of Flames, race Demonic Dragon. The first to hiss his name is Draxen Duldoff, Demon King of Beasts, race Werewolf. He is the same gray-furred senior Berger humiliated back in Arene. Then a woman with pale blue-white hair and ice crystals settling in an elegant halo around her remarks that, so this is the one the town has been talking about. This is Reyna Soldine, Demon King of Winter's race, Frost Demon. From another chair, a spiky armored titan bares his fangs and mutters that here comes the stuck-up brat who insulted the standards. This is Ugar Belvin, Demon King of Indestructibility, race Titan. And at the head of the table stands a silver-haired man in a green cravat with a permanent and joyful smile. He opens his arms and calls out, "Welcome, Berge Deus. This is Jason Cockman, Demon King of Lies, race Unknown." Berge takes a seat and calmly calls them damn fools for forming an alliance. He asks whether they are not ashamed as Demon Kings. The guy counters that of course he knows this is the right choice for Ariane's case. However, Ugar cuts him off with a snarl and screams that Berge is the fool. He demands to know who Berger is to interfere with their affairs and calls him a newcomer. He asks what Berger knows about Arene. The guy files the outburst away quietly. A simple provocation makes it easy to identify what one is thinking. And this Ugar is clearly out to kill him. Ugar snarls that if Berger has a death wish, he will grant it right now. Berger answers with a two-word invitation. Try me. And that is exactly when a single clap slices through the room. Jason's palms are together, and just like that, the killing intent of both Demon Kings vanishes without a trace. Jason smiles and reminds Ugar and Berger that this occasion is to talk about cooperation. Please do not waste their precious time. Berger's mind flags the moment. That was not magic. How did he do it? Is that Jason's personal power or the power of this tower? Something like his own Mana's phantom. He tells himself he cannot jump to conclusions without evidence. He needs to keep his guard up. Fine, he agrees. Jason thanks him for being understanding and opens the meeting. Please feel free to voice your thoughts. Berge notes internally that this meeting is nothing grand. Jason tries again and says if nobody has anything to say, let him start. Nobody speaks. So Draxen turns to Berge and asks him softly where Hillen Cargill is. Our boy meets the question with silence. His inner voice weighs the answer. Meanwhile, one floor below in the Tower of Lies aide's reception room, a very different conversation is happening. A wolf-eared attendant with dark curly hair asks nervously what happened to Hillen Cargill and whether he is dead. Gordon Glasses beside her gently deflects and says he is not sure. He did not even enter their tower. He is most likely still wandering the Urgest Mountains. Gordon tells the first one not to ask him. Another aide leans in and says not to be ridiculous. He should have spotted the tower from afar. The beast's aide mumbles that not in their case, and then someone whispers the question that has been building all afternoon. They ask if the rumors are true and whether the Demon King really is what they say. The aides trail off into silence. Then the tone shifts. It is as the Demon King said. The memory surfaces in Gordon's head of Berger briefing him back at the tower before this trip. Berger told him plainly that if the other aides ask about Hill and Cargill, he should tell them he knows nothing. Since Berger intends to use the hero as a spy, secrecy is of utmost importance. Gordon stares at his hands in the reception room now and admits to himself that the Demon King was not wrong. Yes, the Demon King he serves is, and then something in Gordon snaps. His polished and aristocratic composure cracks straight down the middle. He wails that damn Demon King is a stuck-up brat who never listens to anyone. If Gordon looks away for 1 second, Berger will get himself into trouble immediately. He asks why the Demon King does not just do everything by himself. Then Gordon pauses mid-rant and admits with wide eyes that he does not understand why he feels so satisfied saying this. Around the table, one aide sighs sympathetically and tells him she gets him, and she really does. She asks why all Demon Kings are so weird. Another mutters that in her case her Demon King is a certain way, and another adds as for hers. Gordon slowly realizes the truth of the moment, the universal truth every Demon King's aide carries in their chest. He needed emotional support. Back on the 13th floor, Draxon finally erupts. He demands whether Berger really expects him to believe that. Berger answers with a simple yes. Ugar roars that Berger is claiming Hill and Cargill did not even reach his tower because Berger did not place his tower at the peak. He asks if Berger is screwing with him. Our boy calmly points out that he is free to construct his tower wherever he wants. Jason cuts smoothly in and says so heroes are still aiming for Berger's tower, and yet Berger left it undefended and came here. Surely Jason continues with that same joyful smile. Berger has learned at the academy that a Demon King who has lost their tower meets a dreadful end. Seeing as Berger is the top of his class and all Berger deus, our boy replies coldly that Jason should not concern himself with his tower. Berger is protecting it in his own way. Inside his skull, the guy grinds through the thought that this damn Demon King of lies pisses him off. Jason bows theatrically. If Berger says so, very well. He will not pry any further. Draxon tries one last threat and asks whether they think Archduke Arcane will allow this. Berger flatly answers, who cares what that old geezer says. Draxon sputters. Reyna asks calmly whether something is wrong with Draxon. Berger mutters that they should just move on. He reminds himself internally that even if he lies, they have no way of verifying it. Even if it makes them suspicious of him, it is better than getting discovered. The guy will not forget the reason he came here. His goal is to earn 100,000 gold. And so rather than participating eagerly, the Demon King mostly listens. He observes the room. He thinks that even among Demon Kings there is a clear hierarchy. The Demon King of Lies undoubtedly places quite high. He listens in to gather information and figure out which Demon Kings are short on demonic energy points. And then Reyna catches his eye across the table. The next place they meet is the balcony of the 13th floor. Cold air and cold light and a long fall down to the water. Reyna asks softly whether Berger has a moment. She says she has been wanting to talk to him, just the two of them, ever since she first heard about him. Reyna smiles thinly and says she agrees with some of his points. Our boy asks seriously whether that is true. Internally, he wonders whether Reyna said such things in his previous life as well. Reyna raises a hand gently and tells him not to misunderstand her. She does not hate the standards like he does. In fact, she lives by them. However, she believes Demon Kings need to be more flexible, especially here in Arene. That is why she wanted to meet him alone. She figured it would be more productive talking with him than trying to reason with those two idiots. Berger asks what she thinks of him then. Reyna tells him he is not bad, and he looks better than she thought. Berger starts to say thanks and then catches the compliment mid-sentence. Reyna laughs softly and holds out a small blue orb, which is a personal transmitter. She tells him to call her anytime he wants advice. As long as he does not insult the Demon King's standards in front of her, she will play along. She says she has finally found someone worth talking to. She hopes he does not disappear too quickly. Berger asks her about the Demon King of Lies. Reyna admits she cannot read Jason at all. Still, he is better than those two morons. Later, the guy reflects that Reyna Soldine is someone he cannot fully trust yet. But she is an unexpected gain. Meanwhile, back at Birger's tower, quiet snow surrounds the black spire. On the first floor, Princess Ernan, in a cheerful chef's hat, waves a tray of golden brown cookies at Logar the dwarf and tells him to try them. Logar stammers and asks, "Wait, cookies?" He asks how she made them inside the tower. Ernan explains that the Demon King bought her the ingredients and she baked them with the help of her elemental spirits. A tiny fire spirit hovers beside her tiny oven. Logar mutters that being a genius elementalist must be convenient. Ernan holds out the plate again and tells him to go on and try them. Logar accepts with a polite laugh and tells himself internally that the princess who has never had to work her whole life just made cookies for him. No matter how bad they taste, he decides silently to say they taste great. He takes a bite, then his eyes bug out. No, this taste. His face crumbles into open ecstasy. So phenomenal it moves his mana. He has never had anything like this before. This must be what heaven is like. Ernan asks brightly how they are. Logar is bewildered and drooling, and he asks what in the world she has created. Ernan cheerfully reveals that she put spirit blossoms into the dough. Logar nearly drops the tray and asks what. He demands to know why she would give him something so precious. Ernan tells him she is glad he likes it. No wonder he was filled with mana, Logar mutters. She explains that it is a gift so that they stay close in the future. They are going to be seeing each other for a long time. Then she glances across the field toward Granada training in the distance. Ernan asks Logar whether he thinks Granada will enjoy these as well. Logar answers that, more than him, he is sure. Ernan's smile widens further and she asks whether the Demon King would enjoy them too. Logar blinks. Back in the Tower of Lies chamber, the round table has emptied. Jason lingers alone with Birgie. He remarks that everybody has left already. Jason confirms that yes, they finished talking. He mutters that was short. Then he turns to Birgie with a smile and asks whether he would like some tea if he wishes to talk some more. Birgie asks warily about talking and asks if it is just the two of them. Jason lifts folded fingers to his chin. Yes. The next thing Jason says lands in Birgie's gut hard. He says he knows Birgie is in need of the human's money. Our boy's eye widens. He asks what Jason means by that. Where did the information leak? Jason smiles that same closed-eye smile and tells him that pretending he does not know will not work. Draxon told him. Jason waves the topic aside and says they should not waste their time on pointless mind games. He tells Birgie to come on and make a deal. He gestures and a treasure chest of gold coins slides into view. It is demonic energy points exchanged for the human's currency at his rate. Birgie watches him silently. Then he asks Jason what his angle is. Jason tilts his head and asks what Birgie means. He says he is on Birgie's side. He tells him to get along from now on. Birgie's tower, first floor. The guy tells Hillen Cargill to pick out 100,000 gold from the pile and take it. Hillen stammers that Birgie really got the money. Birgie ignores the stammer and orders him to make sure to hide the source of the funds. He explains as they walk that if Jason traces the flow of money and perfectly figures out their actions, they could end up as his puppets. Since Birgie cannot help his plotting, they need to act as cautiously as possible. Birgie turns the rest of the exchange into something new. He gestures at a formation of hooded figures wreathed in purple magic. They are black knights and black mages, all bound by a forced black magic contract. And the one in the middle, Birgie explains, is a man named Amon from the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. Amon goes ashen when he spots Hillen. Our boy continues without a pause. Hillen is to use these men to grow the money. They will follow his orders to the letter. The bound men kneel in the dust and beg Hillen to please save them. Hillen's face brightens as the situation clicks into place. Since he kept his members alive, this is not a total failure. He can pay off his debts. Does this mean he can keep doing hero work again? He nods to himself. With the current state of affairs, this is not so bad for him. He turns to Birgie with a bright and hopeful grin and announces that he looks forward to working with him, business partner. The room goes still. The kneeling men whisper, "Wait, Sir Hillen." Birgie detonates. A pillar of purple demonic aura shoots up around him, and his eye burns red. He asks what Hillen means by partners. He tells Hillen to let him be clear about this. They are not business partners. Hillen is his slave, and Birgie is his master. Some of the kneeling underlings snicker and say serves him right. The guy adds coldly that he did not know Hillen was into that kind of thing, and that he is not asking for sincere loyalty anyway. He tells Hillen to get moving. Hillen groans, but before he can leave, a soft voice stops him. Hernan glides in with a folded letter and asks whether Hillen could deliver this letter to her younger sister Elena. Hillen blinks and asks if she means Elena, the 13th princess of Hilderan. It is not impossible, but he lowers his voice and asks the princess why she is siding with the Demon King. Hernan lowers her eyes and answers softly that Hillen is part of why she ended up in this situation. She apologizes, but she has no intention of returning to the kingdom right now. Hillen tilts his head and remarks that surely a hero of her status knows about the royal family's secret. Hernan goes still. The kingdom of Hilderan's secret hangs unspoken in the air. Hernan murmurs that she has heard rumors of it, but did not know it was true. If that is the case, then Elena's actions are somehow understandable to her now. She raises her chin and tells Hillen, yes, she understands. Deliver the letter. Later, on top of the tower, Gordon explains everything to Burge. Gordon admits it is not that he distrusts the Demon King, but he asks if that hero will really follow orders. Our boy replies calmly that Hillen is not a despicable man who only cares about money. He did not see that specific human crassness in him. He means the obsession with wealth. That said, Hillen is not particularly noble either. Most likely what Hillen wants is not honor, it is popularity. A memory of Hillen Cargill bathing in the cheers of a crowd flickers through Burge's mind. He goes on and says, since Hillen wants to stand out, he is proactive in what he does. If they control him properly using Armani's orb, he will be the best spy they can ask for. Beside him, Gordon claws at his own hair and mutters that, to think Burge studied humans to this extent, he cannot afford to sit still either. The guy grins wider and asks quietly what Gordon thinks about this. If a hero destroys human society from the inside as the vassal of a demon king, would that not be a sight to behold? Gordon lights up despite himself and answers that it would very much be. The two of them wander down the corridor and both stop at once. A door has opened. Hernan pokes her blonde head out with a bright and careful smile and asks whether they would like to try some cookies. Burge and Gordon share a silent and puzzled look. Hernan scolds Burge mildly and says he has been coming in and out of this room way too comfortably lately. Then her tone snaps to chef mode. If they taste bad, she is going to send him to the underground prison for a month. She tells him to try them first before he judges. Our boy squints at the plate and thinks that human desserts are probably not worth it. One bite and his face freezes. This taste. His eye widens and mana visibly ripples off his skin. Hernan claps her hands with a delighted reaction. She wipes his mouth carefully and catches his composure back. He grunts that they are not bad, for a mere human. Hernan gasps as if he has just passed the world's hardest test and says he endured it. Burge asks flatly whether she mixed spirit blossoms into the cookies. Hernan grins and admits yes and says she knew he would notice right away. Burge's eyes narrow. His inner voice notes that so she is returning the reward he gave her back to him. It sounds like there is something she wants separately. Hernan lets a pink halo bloom around her and admits yes, actually. She trails off with a coy little smile. Burge watches her with cold amusement. Trap noted. Meanwhile, the world outside Burge's tower keeps moving. Hillen's hero party safely descends the mountain under Krutu's escort. The Fuel Orc chieftain personally shepherds them through the passes. Once they reach Holton Walk, they leave immediately for the kingdom of Hilderan through a teleportation magic circle. Only Granada stays behind. He went to establish discipline. At the Red Hawk Mercenary Guild's Holton Walk headquarters, Granada stands in front of Bark and the surviving Red Hawks. He hisses that they are saying they all ran away during the first blizzard and left only him, the captain, behind. One of the mercenaries breaks down and whimpers that it was not like that captain. He begs Granada to listen to them. They went to the Urgist Mountains, and that is a place where even heroes die. How were mid-tier mercenaries supposed to hold out? They did not have a choice if they wanted to survive. Granada roars that they chose to abandon their captain. Bark tries to soothe him and calls him Sir Granada. And then a new voice enters the room. A blonde woman in polished plate armor steps forward and says softly that they finally meet. Her name is Maeve. She is a hero. She could not join Hillen's journey due to her circumstances. However, she came all the way here to seize this opportunity, even though she is late. Please, she asks, and tells them to allow her to join the hero's journey. Granada squints at her and asks if she is a hero. One of the Red Hawks offers helpfully that while Granada was gone, she is the one who paid all their bar tabs. Another leans in with a mug and asks how about a drink, captain. Granada barks at them to stay still, idiots. Then he composes himself and turns back to Maeve. He appreciates that she paid for their drinks, but the hero's journey is already over. Maeve blinks and asks what. Granada tells her that Hillen and the others already left Holton Walk. Maeve breathes out a stunned no way. Then she squares her shoulders. If Granada will pardon her rudeness, she asks him to please tell her more about the failure. Granada thinks quickly that he can share that much. He will only tell her what the Demon King has allowed him to say. He tells her the sanitized version. Maeve listens in growing disbelief and mutters that the Demon King's tower is not at the summit. In that case, she has no reason to stay here any longer. She thanks Granada for his valuable time and drops a small pouch onto the table. She says to consider this a small token of gratitude. Then she leaves. Granada watches her go with a thoughtful expression. He thinks that just by looking at her you can clearly tell she is a rookie hero who has no idea how the world works. She will be lucky not to get stabbed in the back by her own colleagues. Then, without looking up, he tells Bark to move his hand away from the money. Down in the alley below, a fully armored knight has cornered Maeve. The knight tells her she must return now and addresses her as Your Highness. Her fiancé is waiting. Maeve rips off her helmet and glares up at the knight. She refuses. She wants to live as a hero. Granada watches from above and thinks that he followed them because he did not hear their footsteps, even though they are all wearing full plate armor. So that hero is a princess. Maeve continues coldly that matters concerning the kingdom should be handled by the kingdom itself. Granada sucks in a breath. The armored knight's head snaps up and demands to know who Granada is. He asks why Granada was spying on them and says he is even using suspicious magic. Granada's own inner voice goes tight. This is a magical tool he received from the Demon King. This is bad. If he is caught, he will be exposed as the Demon King's vassal. The knight steps forward with sword drawn and says if Granada is a spy from another kingdom, then the knight cannot let him live. Granada's eyes go wide with panic. Demon King, he thinks he got himself into trouble. What should he do? The rooftop above the Holton Walk alley erupts in fire and screams. One of the armored knights bellows that it is an assassin and draws his sword, pointing at the green-haired shape scrambling for the wall. Down in the alley, Maeve steadies herself as her guards close ranks. They shout not to let him get away. Granada scrambles for cover behind a chimney and thinks furiously. He is the only elf in Holton Walk right now. If he uses his elven powers, he will be identified immediately. But he is not sure he can escape safely if he does not. A knight tells Maeve to leave this to them and that they will handle it. Maeve refuses and says she is a hero too. Granada grits his teeth. He has no choice even if it means getting exposed here. He needs to use his powers. And then a familiar voice interrupts the whole thing. Our boy asks if this is why Granada was late. A dark demonic silhouette drops into view with bat wings flared and purple aura crackling around him. Berger glares down at Granada and asks whether he is slacking off. Granada shrieks and asks if Berger cannot see the situation he is in. The guy lowers his eyes to the wounds and shrugs. He says he does not see what all the fuss is about. Those are the kind of wounds that will heal if Granada just spits on them. Granada mutters seriously under his breath. Below, the knights look up and go pale. They shout that a Demon King has come to kidnap Her Highness and to protect Her Highness with their lives. One shouts not to mind Berger because this is a chance to defeat a Demon King. The guy blinks and says she is a princess and he did not know that. The knights shriek back and tell him not to lie and ask why Granada is here then. Granada calmly agrees and asks, yeah, why is Berger here? Our boy announces calmly that he is on an errand. By coincidence, a knight explodes and asks an errand by coincidence. He says Granada could not come up with a better lie. For a moment, the story drifts back to what Berger was actually doing before Granada's mess. Inside his throne room, Berger sits on his throne watching Ernan kneel with folded hands. Fine, he tells her. What does she want? Ernan looks up sweetly and asks for Seniel powder. Berger pauses. Seniel powder is the powder used for spirit contracts. Ernan brightens and says yes. The name goes back hundreds of years. An elf named Seniel once defected to a human kingdom. The king at the time ordered her to develop a supplement so that humans could form contracts with spirits properly. That is how Seniel powder came to exist. The guy replies that with Ernan's own talent, Seniel powder should not be necessary. Ernan sighs and coughs quietly and tells him he overestimates her, as he knows there is barely any mana in the tower. Without Seniel powder, her spirits will start to fade. And more importantly, she is planning to form a contract with a new spirit. Right now, she is bonded with 3 high-ranking spirits. Well, maybe. Berger's inner voice confirms his suspicion. In his previous life, Hilderin contracted her 4th high-ranking spirit at the exceptionally young age of 27. That event shook the entire continent when it went public. Only prodigies who breathe correctly ever contract high-ranking spirits at all. And now she is going to do it 7 whole years earlier. He wonders whether living in his tower for months after leaving the palace changed her that much. Grins and asks how he knew that. Our boy tells her that as long as it increases the tower's strength, he does not care. He pockets one of her cookies and thanks her for the meal and heads out. Which brings us back to the rooftop where Berger now scowls at Granada and mutters that he has his own circumstances too. He says to end this real quick. He turns to the guards below and purple aura flares around his fingertips and swings. Maeve blocks. Metal rings. Berger's eyes flick up in mild interest and he remarks that he supposes a hero is still a hero. Maeve stands up in front of Berger with her sword blazing green with sword aura. She declares that a hero's aura contains the power to annihilate demonkind. That is why a hero is a demon king's natural enemy. She says she belongs not in that suffocating royal palace but on the battlefield. Then she executes the Jespine imperial family's highest-ranking sword technique called Crescent Moon Slash. A blade of aura releases in an instant to cut down her enemy. It is extremely difficult and only passed down to the imperial family's greatest swordsman. While her aura tears down the alley, her inner voice paints who she really is. Since a low-ranking princess like her has little value, she can understand why she was sold off to a foreign king. She can understand the political logic. But that pervert just is not it. She screams internally about how unfair it is that she could be sent to marry some disgusting old man. That is why she bribed the imperial swordsmanship instructor and trained day and night relentlessly in order to be acknowledged not as a princess but as a hero. If she defeats a demon king right here, right now, she will finally be recognized as a proper hero. Then she will be free from her father's orders. She will decide who she marries. Berger catches her crescent moon / barehanded and his fingertips crack the aura. He tells her that her sword aura is not bad. Maeve stares at her stopped blade in disbelief and whispers her finishing move. The guy tilts his head and asks calmly that if she is a hero, she surely will not die from this rite. A dome of purple demonic fire detonates outward. When the smoke clears, Maeve is on the ground with blood streaming from her forehead and her armor cracked open at the shoulder. She whispers to no one that so this is a demon king. Our boy looks down at her with a slow demonic grin and says a princess and a hero. She is useful in more ways than one. Maeve tries to warn her guards and tries to gasp out a no and a wait. The knights below scream that Her Highness is in danger and the entire block of Holton Walk erupts in a second wave of black flames. Guards from all over the city come running through the smoke and rubble. They ask what that explosion was. One says a demon has attacked and he can feel demonic energy in the air. They ask about a demon in Holton Walk and point out there are injured men over there. They ask where the enemy is. The knights are down and someone calls for a healing mage quickly. They ask what the guards were even doing. A red-haired knight, half-conscious, croaks up at his rescuer that Her Highness was taken by a demon king. They ask if a demon king was here. They tell him to snap out of it and not close his eyes. Someone kneels beside another survivor and mutters black flames. They ask if this was done by the demon king of the Urgest Mountains. Back at Berger's tower, deep beneath the black stone in the underground prison, Maeve lies chained on the floor with her bleeding wrapped in cloth. Hernan approaches curiously and asks if her name is Signal by any chance. Berger answers instead and says no, she is a princess. Kade Jespine, the 4th imperial princess of Jespine. She will be living with Ernan on the 4th floor of the tower from now on. She is a bit hurt, so Ernan should tend to her injuries. Ernan asks brightly why he suddenly brought in another princess. The guy shrugs and answers that he saw her on the way and picked her up. Ernan tilts her head with a wide and innocent smile that starts breaking Berger's brain. He tells her that to secure demonic energy points he has to kidnap a prince or princess periodically. Hernan asks with real curiosity what demonic energy points are, and then his inner voice screams at him. Why is he telling a prisoner classified information? He cuts himself off mid-sentence and covers his slip with a mumble that never mind, he will go get her senile powder. Hernan says okay softly. Our boy storms out of the room and grits his teeth all the way down the corridor. He curses and asks himself if he has gotten comfortable with her because he sees her so often. He tells himself to get a grip. The princess is nothing but a prisoner. Meanwhile, the news of an imperial princess of the Jespin Empire being kidnapped in Holton Walk spreads rapidly across the entire continent. At the Heroes Guild headquarters, Hillen Cargill stands before the council of shadowed figures and bows deeply. A voice asks whether he can swear that not a single word of his statement is false. Hillen answers yes and says he is ashamed to admit he could not find the Demon King's tower. He says he will take full responsibility for his failure. A senior voice tells him not to worry about it because if they hold the hero responsible for the failure of a hero's journey, what hero would step forward next time? Hillen bows again and thanks them very much. Still at the same time as the hero's journey retreated, another shadow reports the Demon King of the Urgus Mountains kidnapped an imperial princess of Jespine. The Jespine Empire is now formally requesting they launch another hero's journey. The council would like Hillen's opinion since he has already been through Urgust. Hillen pauses just long enough to look sorry and then delivers Berge's plan under the guise of expert counsel. Although he feels sorry for the imperial princess, even he could not find the tower. Rather than launching a hero's journey immediately, he believes their priority should be a small reconnaissance unit to locate the tower first. After that, subjugation will be simple, because if the Demon King was confident in his own strength, he would not have built a hidden tower. A shadow murmurs that this is true and makes sense. A strong Demon King has no reason to hide. Another agrees and says it may go against Demon King pride, but if this one is a powerless coward, he is not a major threat. Another concurs and another believes this Demon King will be weak. The head shadow with the two glowing eyes speaks the verdict. Taking Hillen Cargill's advice into consideration, they will temporarily postpone an all-out hero's journey until they confirm the tower's location. Hillen bows and confirms understood. Then, through a private magic transmission ring pinned inside his armor, Hillen's real voice speaks. He asks if this is what Berge wanted and if he wanted to use Hillen's authority to block a hero's journey at the source. Gordon's face flickers in the transmission ring. Hillen reports that he has bought Berge time. The rest is up to Berge. That concludes Hero Hillen Cargill's report. Berge replies calmly and says, "Got it, keep watching him." Berge leans back in his throne and lets himself smile. He did not think the Heroes Guild was already preparing a full assault. If it were not for Hillen Cargill, that would have been very bad for them. Making him a vassal was the right call. Hillen and Granada are working outside the tower, and with the two of them, Berge can delay the launch of the hero's journey. Meanwhile, Berge has also been steadily kidnapping new princesses to stack up demonic energy points. Kaide Jespin alone adds another 17,000 points to his ledger. If he uses Armani's orb on her, he might even be able to use her as real fighting power. Down below, the dwarf is remodeling the tower and reinforcing the first floor even further. And out on the snowfields, Crew 2 is expanding their influence. Once Ernan Hilderin contracts her fourth high-ranking spirit, Berge thinks no ordinary hero's journey will dare to attack them anymore. Because they will become an overwhelmingly powerful tower. Only then can he finally focus on the outside world and begin his true revenge against the damn heroes who killed him. To do that, though, he needs to obtain Seniel powder, and Seniel powder is only available in one place. It is a city overflowing with powerful mages and heroes called the Magitech City Kamerd. Our boy looks out over the horizon at the impossible skyline of towers and mana lattices. He mutters that if he can get it without being found out, that is. This is going to be way too hard. The Magitech city of Kimur rises out of the Akan Kingdom's central plain, and it looks like a glittering fortress of towers and mana lattices. This is the holy grail of magic engineering and the place where every hero and mage and alchemist on the continent eventually gathers. And inside a shabby shop on the outskirts of the world's best magic market, a hunched proprietor named Jatosen is reading the latest wanted posters. Jatosen mutters that the 9th princess of Jespin was kidnapped as soon as the hero's journey finished and asks what the Heroes Guild is even doing. He shakes his head at a second poster, which is a wanted notice for a hero named Loger. He mutters that it really is the end of the world. Then he looks up as the door swings open. Jatosen calls out welcome and asks if there is something the customer is looking for. Our boy steps in wrapped in a black hooded cloak and answers with 2 words, Seniel powder. Jatosen beams and says of course he has got it. It is a bit of a rundown shop, but he has got everything. Berge's inner monologue narrates the strategy. The Akan Kingdom is a holy grail for magic engineering, which means every well-known shop in Kimur is filled with heroes and mages. There is still a huge risk even if he conceals his demonic energy, so he purposely came to a shabby and empty shop. Jettison lights up and cries out that the customer is in luck. There is no need to go to another store now that he is here. Lucky guy. Amazing. So cheap. There is a special offer for these today for 1 gold. The guy tells him flatly to be quiet, and that is expensive. He picks up the little bottle and points out that the Seniel powder he knows of is green. He asks why this one is purple. Jettison answers smoothly that this is a newly developed Seniel powder. The Mage's Tower created this highly confidential formula, and it has yet to be released to the general market. It is a very rare item. Berger watches him without blinking. Jettison doubles down and says the customer cannot buy it if he does not buy it now. There are so many people after Seniel powder. In his own head, Jettison notes gleefully that this customer looks like a noble, so he must have a reason for coming here. He is going to turn this man's pockets inside out. Berger's face darkens under his hood. Jettison has figured out that he cannot easily go to other stores. How dare he try to scam a demon king? Our boy considers calmly whether he should just kill him. That is exactly when the bell over the door chimes and another voice cuts across the shop. Jettison calls out welcome and snaps into scam mode. A second voice asks sharply whether they really needed to come to this shabby shop first. Berger glances back and freezes. In the doorway stands a small figure in bright red and white armor with a giant heavy gauntlet. She is escorted by a huge steel-plated knight. He recognizes her instantly. That nasty attitude and that rough voice and those pigtails. This is Louise Werft. He mentally thanks whatever small mercy that when they fought at Wolfner he used a magical face mask tool. She cannot recognize him now. The knight beside Louise starts hissing about what the hell kind of scum this is. Jettison jabs a finger at Louise and yells that she has not read the room. But how dare she try to negotiate with him? Murder in the capital city is forbidden. Louise sputters that he cannot do this. Jettison doubles down again and says if she is going to threaten him, can she please just buy something first? His name is Jettison, by the way. He announces it politely because he is pretty sure she is about to stab him. Our boy watches this exchange from the corner with a numb what. Louise incredibly throws her head back and howls with laughter. She says he is funny. Okay, show her what he has got. Jettison whips out the same little vial he had just tried to sell to Berger, but this time he introduces it as Archa powder. He starts explaining how great this powder is for dwarves. Berger mutters what the hell inside his hood. That is the Seniel powder from 30 seconds ago. Right now Jettison chirps 1 bottle is going for the low price of 3 gold. Louise pauses and then agrees. Fine, 3 gold. Jettison bows deeply and blesses her and says good fortune will follow her. Louise gets to her question and asks if any dwarves have visited the city recently. A dwarf named Loger. Jettison answers he has never heard of that name before. But from what he has heard, there is a central square in the Akan Kingdom called Bob Deer's Leaf. It is a spot every blacksmith on the continent visits. Someone there will know. She turns to leave and offers Jettison a small apology on the way past. Then she is gone. The guy approaches the counter and tells Jettison calmly not bad. He sold trash for 3 gold. Jettison grins and says it is because Berger did not say anything. She seemed like a noble young lady, so Jettison figured she would easily pay 3 gold. Privately, Jettison adds that he was pretty sure she was not actually going to stab him for real. Berger remarks that it seems Jettison is interested in business. Jettison leans in slyly and says he can teach the customer his secret for 10 gold. Berger's inner voice concedes that this man is a persistent scammer. His skill in scamming humans is top-notch. Our boy actually likes him. He tells Jettison to go to the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. Tell them he was sent by the mountain and they will take him in. Jettison blinks and asks whether Berger was connected to the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. They are on the verge of going bankrupt. Why would a person whose future is so bright go to a place like that? Berger smiles ominously under his hood and asks Jettison whether he is really asking why he needs to go. Well, because the person Jettison just scammed, and Berger holds out a small item Louise dropped on the way out, was Louise Werft. Jettison goes chalk white. The customer just now was the punk princess. Werft's crazy hound, Louise Werft. He stammers what the customer wants from him. The guy slaps a single gold coin onto the counter and tells him he already said it. Join the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. Monthly salary is 1 gold. If he declines, Berger is going to bring Louise back here. Jatusen wails, "Oh, please not that." He pauses and then adds calmly whether Berger thought he would really say that. Something snaps in Jatusen. He straightens up and screams how dare Berger try to scam him. He tells Berger to try bringing her back here. Even if it is the crazy hound, a princess would not personally come here. Our boy answers with a single word. Sure. He turns and walks calmly out of the shop. Then he lifts a hand outside the door and snaps his fingers. A Louise small red magic circle blooms into existence, and black flames roar into the interior of the shop. Jatusen's silhouette contorts against the fire as he screams. Later, Berger strolls out with a proper green vial of cineal powder tucked in his pocket. Even a shop on the outskirts sells the real thing, he mutters. That scammer. A voice interrupts him from behind. Louise Werft is back with her guard in tow. She grins up at him and thanks him. Because of him, she was able to get a refund. Berger answers that is good. Then he asks casually what happened to the shop owner. Louise pouts. Unfortunately, he is from a different country, so she was only able to give him a light beating. She should have ripped his heart out. Our boy makes an internal note that the young princess is genuinely enraged. She is as ill-tempered as ever. Then something in his head clicks. Wait. Heart? Come to think of it, he turns back to her and asks whether she is looking for a guy named Loger. Louise nods eagerly and asks if he is a blacksmith and if Berger knows him and where he is. The guy reaches into his coat and produces a delicate dwarven necklace. He asks if this object is connected to this. Louise gasps. This necklace, it is one of Loger's items and created at the beginning of his career. She stares at it. Berger spins her a lie. 2 months ago, he coincidentally met the dwarf in a forest called Ormuth. He shared his food with the dwarf because he looked like he was starving. The dwarf said thank you and gave him this necklace. It looks like it was created by a master, so Berger kept it. Louise's eyes shine. She babbles that she has to treat him to alcohol for 5 straight days as thanks. The knight beside her tells her to please hold herself back. Our boy continues smoothly and says he needs to capture Loger before he leaves, so she should use this. He hands her a small metal token. This is a badge which allows the bearer to swap one of the best pieces of equipment made in the Dwarven Kingdom. Louise takes it because it looks useful. The knight asks nervously what she is going to do. She tells him coldly to call father and request reinforcements. She is not going to let Loger go. She screams Loger's name up at the sky with teeth bared. Berger watches her from across the street and lets the pieces settle. His inner monologue reveals the real point of all this. His heart, he thinks quietly. He has lost track of time because he was busy stopping the hero's journey. Before and around this time, Draxen discovered and absorbed the heart of some summoning beast and gained overwhelming strength. A vision of the beast flickers through his mind. It is a massive burning lion with a single glowing red eye. That heart, Berger admits, was the only thing he actually wanted. Dimensional interference still hits him heavily as a new Demon King. If he were to fight Draxen right now, fitted out with top-grade equipment one-on-one, even with everything Berger has, it would either be a stalemate or a very narrow win. If our boy wants his revenge against the heroes who killed him and wants to survive in this dimension, he needs to develop his powers, so he is going to send Louisa to Ormuth, to the place where the Beast Tower stands, the crazy hound Louise Werft and the Demon King of Beasts, Draxen Doldolf. While those two tear into each other, the summoning beast's heart will be his. Our boy's tower has just fused with Mana's Phantom, and the result unlocks 2 brand new functions the Demon King never had before. One lets Berger operate the tower from anywhere on the continent through a remote view. The other lets him deliver items directly to anyone inside, no matter where he is standing. He puts both to work immediately. Berger tells Gordon that something has come up outside and he is leaving the tower under his lieutenant's care for a while. Gordon straightens and promises the Demon King can leave everything to him. Then a magical parcel materializes on the 4th floor in front of Ernan, and it contains 10 vials of top-grade Senial powder priced at 1,000 demonic energy points to deliver. The attached message tells her that these are the reagents required to form a contract with a high-ranking spirit, and that the Demon King went personally to secure them. It says she should use every grain carefully. On the same floor, Katie swings her blade at nothing. Her whole life, she has trained to prove she is more than a bartered princess, and being a Demon King's prisoner has not softened her one bit. Berge's orders to Ernan are simple. Keep the Jespine princess on the 4th floor. Teach her swordsmanship until she reaches her real fighting form. He will test her himself once he returns. Kate snaps that she will make Ernan regret ever training her, and Ernan tells her flatly to try beating her once first, before making promises like that. Down on the 1st floor, another parcel arrives, and another 1,000-point transfer. The Hell Forge materializes right in the middle of Loger's cramped workshop. A hellfire smelter roars like a living furnace, and a freezing quenching unit pulses and rows of tools no dwarf has ever laid eyes on fill the space. Loger's jaw drops. When Berge's message orders him to be grateful for the Demon King's generosity and to reinforce the 1st floor even further, Loger forgets for once to plot his own escape. He cheers that he will make every single trap absolutely perfectly for the Demon King. Outside the tower, Krutu's report comes in on the fuel orcs. 3 tribes now stand united under Berge's sigil, and their numbers have doubled since the Blue Frost Pact. They have grown strong enough to hunt down the ghost monsters that haunt the Ergist Peaks without the tower ever needing to lift a finger. Standing far from his own tower for the first time, our boy activates the remote view and calls Gordon directly. He tells him to manage the tower properly until he returns, and Gordon promises with genuine warmth that he will not disappoint him. Berge quietly notes to himself that running the tower from the outside really is a convenient function. His next call goes to Hillen Cargill, and the moment he reaches for the link, Hillen is already on the other side trying to contact him. The timing is impeccable. Hillen reports that the takeover of the Golden Moon Merchant Guild is complete, and from here on the operation will be run by a man and the Black Knights and the Black Mages under his covert supervision. He explains how a man got reinstated as heir. One of the 10 stars formally backed him, and the guild leader officially handed the seat to his son, and the reputation of the 10 stars was confirmed in one clean move. The guy simply says good work and moves on to the next order. He tells Hillen to relay a message to Granada. The Golden Moon Merchant Guild will now fund a continent-wide campaign to buy up every elf slave available. Granada, catching the order across the link, cannot hide his shock at the scale of what he is being asked to do. Berge adds that a certain con man named Jatason will be joining the guild soon. He is the same bastard who had the nerve to try scamming Louise Werf, and Granada should put him to work. He warns that if Jettison fails to show his face within 1 month, he has already tracked down every piece of the man's personal information, and he will simply send an assassin to erase him from the world. Over at the Horton Walk shared training grounds, Granada relays the buy-up order, and the slave traders can barely believe someone actually wants every elf on their books. Privately, Granada is torn in two. Saving his people from human chains is news he never dared dream of. But dragging them straight into the Demon King's grasp feels like a fresh betrayal that only he can commit. He wonders bitterly whether Berge picked him for this precisely because he will be forced to recruit them all as spies, just like Berge recruited him. Maybe the Demon King gave him this mission on purpose. His Red Hawk lieutenants pick up on the silence and start whispering among themselves. One mutters that he still does not understand why the captain is making them all learn elf swordsmanship, and another grumbles that the old fogey keeps bragging about being hundreds of years older than the rest of them. One of the men watching Granada's slumped shoulders floats a truly stupid idea. The vice captain was originally their captain, was he not? If he leads a run, they will follow. The silence that follows the suggestion stretches long enough for them to think Granada is actually considering it. Then Granada's answer snaps out flat and cold. Compared to spending their whole lives as human slaves and dying in chains, being under the Demon King is far better. Green vine bindings erupt around the mutineer and hoist him upside down as he shrieks apology after apology, begging Granada not to humiliate him in front of the men. Granada makes an example of him just long enough to seal the lesson. The rest of the Red Hawks pretend nothing is happening. One asks another what is going on and gets told it is nothing. Far to the south in the Ormuth Rainforest Kingdom, a very different princess is walking straight into disaster. Louise Verft's advisor delivers the ultimatum. Ormuth has ordered the Dwarven party to march out immediately with all their troops. Louise, still hunting the blacksmith who slipped through her fingers, snaps back that she has not found that bastard yet. The advisor pleads that they have already checked every corner of Ormuth's allowed territory, but Louise counters that there is one place left: the Beast Mountain. Her own guards go pale at the name and warn her that this is the Beast Demon King's territory, and entering it means death. Louise dismisses them coldly and says nobody would dare touch her. If any nation laid a hand on the Dwarven royal family, every kingdom that uses Dwarven weapons would go to war on her behalf. Her advisor recites the precedent from 200 years ago when a demon king who moved against a Dwarven prince was hunted down in a single subjugation. Louise takes that history as her personal shield. Her guards protest that Logar might not even be inside those mountains, and that the blacksmith might have fooled them all. But Louise shouts that Logar could be there too, and any guard who refuses her order will have his head torn off first. They fall in line. Word of the Dwarven princess crossing toward the Beast Mountain reaches Draxen Doldorf, and the Beast Demon King erupts. He roars that the crazy princess must have somehow found out about the heart of the summoning beast. It is pure mana energy sleeping beneath magma inside a volcano, and a power he would not trade for even 10,000 spirit blossoms. It is a power that would make him the strongest force on the continent the moment he absorbed it. His security should have been airtight, yet she is heading straight for it, and the dragon is in its final stage of forming. Draxen orders his people to stop her at all costs, but under no circumstances is she to be killed or seriously injured. His underling grimaces and mutters that following that particular order is going to be very, very difficult. Draxen bellows at him to say that again. Back in the jungle, Louise's dwarves find themselves surrounded by hundreds of Ormith warriors before they can even reach the mountain. From the rank steps a tall man radiating cruel confidence. He greets the Dwarven princess with theatrical courtesy. This is Max Ormith, the second prince of Ormith. He asks Louise coolly whether she has a death wish. He reminds her that this is the Demon King's territory and entry is forbidden. He says the palace already warned her the demon tribe might slaughter her here. Louise sneers that no demon would dare touch her and orders him to clear the way. She is not going home until she finds Logar. Max's grin splits into something crueler. He tells her that dwarves really are stupid. 200 years ago, he says the Jespine Kingdom sat right next to the Demon King's castle and made a fortune selling war supplies to the heroes fighting there. That windfall was the seed that grew Jespine into an empire. If Louise dies here at the hands of the Demon King's underlings, will the exact same story not play out again? Louise's face turns cold as every piece snaps together at once. Ormith intends to sacrifice her and pin the death on the Demon King and pocket the entire profit that follows. She hisses that he is a bastard, and Max declares that now it is Ormith's turn to make that profit. He orders every warrior around him to kill the dwarves for the prosperity of the Ormith Kingdom. Louise draws her weapon and roars that anyone who wants to die can come first. She calls the Ormith warriors cowardly monkeys. Meanwhile, Draxen's underlings watching from the tree line realize with horror that the dwarves are about to be slaughtered on Beast Demon King soil. If Louise dies here, every nation with dwarven weapons will hunt Draxen down. Draxen himself orders every monster and demon under his command to move immediately and save the dwarven princess no matter what. But the Ormith warriors know their jungle. The terrain favors them, and the numbers favor them, and one by one the dwarven knights fall in the mud. Louise's remaining guard shouts that the terrain is impossible and they cannot win a head-on fight. He begs her to escape while he opens a path. Louise's eyes burn with helpless rage, and she screams that she will just wipe them all out herself. The guard begs her again to please calm down. Louise falls silent, and her fury is forced into the smallest possible shape. Max mocks her from his rock and calls her ridiculous for turtling up behind her defenses. He announces he will end the whole thing with one single blow. His fist comes down loaded with red killing aura, and in that instant something answers him. A wave of dense and sticky darkness detonates across the clearing. Purple demonic energy floods the jungle. Ormith's attack was never part of his plan. Human interests really are complicated. Max staggers back, and every trace of excitement drains out of his face. His instincts have been screaming at him for minutes, but only now does the truth land. This is not a beast demon standing in front of him. This is something far worse. Wreathed in black flames, Berger tells the second prince of Ormith that he is going to die here. Max Ormith realizes in that first sickening instant that the presence in front of him is not a beast demon at all. This is an upper-rank demon sent from somewhere else, and Max has no time to think about what that means. He shouts at his warriors to kill the dwarven princess while he holds the newcomer off and his men roar back their agreement. Then he throws himself at Louise and she moves like nothing Max has ever met. He feels the terrifying speed of the blows landing across his ribs and grinds his teeth. In the middle of the exchange, he snarls that he needs to deal with that crazy princess first before anything else. That thought dies the moment Berger's demonic tendrils coil around his arms and pin him in place. Max realizes with a jolt that he has been bound by pure demonic energy and he curses under his breath. He asks himself how he was suppressed so easily. Luis answers by driving him into the ground and vanishing his demonic energy in the same instant. The Ormuth warriors freeze. Their prince is falling, and the demon they were told was the enemy is simply not there anymore. They scan the trees and they scan the clearing, but they cannot find a single trace of the aura they felt only seconds ago. All they can see is the dwarven princess standing among the corpses of their brothers. Their grief detonates into rage. They accuse Louise of laying hands on their prince and swear to send her to the afterlife to keep him company. Louise is still bleeding from the earlier ambush and cannot believe what she is hearing. She snarls back that they were the ones who came to kill her first, and now they are treating her like she is the problem. She hoists her axe and tells them that if they want to reunite with the prince so badly, she will happily send them there herself. Her dwarven guard forms up around her and orders everyone to cover the princess and stop the Ormuth warriors from getting close. Alone in the trees, he lets a small, satisfied smile touch his mouth. "All right then," he says quietly. "Take the bait." Then his gaze slides toward the horizon where the Tower of Beasts stands, and he adds one name, the Demon King of Beasts. His silhouette slips into the tree line and disappears. 5 minutes earlier, at the Tower of Beasts, everything begins to unravel. Draxen Duldorf feels the wave of demonic energy hit his territory and freezes mid-step. His underling stammers that this demonic energy is not something he recognizes. Draxen puts it together instantly. His own vassals do not feel like this. Another demon king has sent a demon into his territory, and this demon is powerful enough that only an upper rank or higher could produce that signal. But what makes Draxen's stomach turn is the timing. At the precise moment the dwarven princess and the Ormuth prince are clashing at his border, another demon shows up. The intrusion is far too perfect to be a coincidence. He decides on the spot that he needs to confirm this with his own eyes. By the time Draxen arrives, everything is already ruined. He demands to know whether his people saved the dwarven princess and whether they caught the intruding demon. His wolf-beast underling can barely meet his gaze. He apologizes and admits that when they arrived, the princess was already surrounded by Ormuth soldiers. Draxen's roar shakes the trees. He remembers the disaster of 200 years ago, when a demon king was hunted down over exactly this kind of incident. He does not yet have the strength to survive that same script if it repeats itself now. His underlings continue reporting through his rage. They tried to save Louise, but the princess herself handled everything alone and cut down every Ormuth warrior within reach. Draxen roars at them not to make things confusing and cuffs one across the face for good measure. The next apology is worse. The second prince of Ormuth was killed by the dwarven princess herself. Draxen's mind blanks. His underlings ask what he wants done with the surviving Ormuth warriors gathered nearby. Draxen weighs the options in a heartbeat. If he silences them, they will pin the prince's murder on him. Kidnapping and murder do not carry the same political weight. One gets a subjugation force and the other gets a full war. Even if Ormuth is a weak nation, if the survivors go mad with grief and start rampaging across the continent, they will become a headache he cannot afford. He orders his people to let the Ormuth warriors live so they can testify properly and keep him from being framed. Then he reasons it out. If the intruder specialized in stealth and it was an upper-ranked demon on top of that, then of course his low-tier trackers could not catch it. He decides to use a technique he has not touched in a long while: ultrasensory amplification. A beastkin art that concentrates demonic energy directly into the sensory organs and lets a trained user catch even the traces of stealth magic. Draxen's senses ignite and he can see it. Faint traces of an unfamiliar demon weaving through the jungle. He asks which direction the dwarven princess ran, and his underling points the way. Draxen follows the trail with widening horror. He roars a curse across the clearing as he understands what he has just walked into. Every piece of it was bait. The dwarven princess, the Ormuth prince, Even the deliberate release of demonic energy was designed to pull him away from his own volcano. An upper-rank demon showing up here was not the goal at all. A demon king who deploys an upper-rank demon into a rival's territory is only ever after one thing. And Draxon already knows exactly what that thing is. Deep inside the volcano, beneath layers of hoarded lava, two figures with pickaxes work quietly around a glowing shape. The reveal lands hard. The heart of the summoning beast. Our boy is already inside. Berger stands in a cave near the lava's edge and confirms with his own senses that this really is not ordinary magma. He can feel the aura of the summoning beast singing all the way from here. He notes with grudging respect that no matter how tough Draxon is, jumping into this pit without preparation would have been impossible. He also spots the workers around the pit and the drainage channels they are quietly carving into the walls. Draxon has been secretly draining the lava. The guy decides that it does not matter to him either way. The scales of the black flame demonic dragon can move through lava without harm. He steps into the fire. In the depths, an upper-rank guardian senses him instantly. It is a 3-meter tiger beastkin with orange fur and cold blue eyes waiting on the rocks above the lake. The tiger rears up and chokes out that the intruder is a demon. Berger answers not with a blow, but with a command. The beast panics and thrashes, shouting for him to let go, but Berger's grip on it is unshakable. When the tiger's body finally hits the lava, it makes exactly the kind of thundering splash the underlings above cannot ignore. The beast was never the prize. Berger's memory rolls back. That bastard Draxon in his previous life absorbed the heart of the summoning beast, and his regeneration became absurdly strong. Our boy has always wondered what kind of creature Draxon absorbed. Deep in the lava, hidden under layers of hoarded magma, Berger finally lays eyes on the answer. Wings of pure flame. A body 5 meters wide. A corpse that is somehow still alive, waiting for its next cycle. It was a phoenix's corpse. Berger remembers the records he saw as a cadet at the Demon King Military Academy. Phoenixes cross dimensions and appear in many forms, from godlike beings down to lesser destroyers, and vary wildly in raw strength. But they share one common truth. Every demon king who ever fully absorbed a phoenix earned a name that outlived him in the history of the demonic realm. Berger's grin turns fierce. He thanks Draxon quietly for absorbing this exact phoenix in his previous life, because it is the reason he even knows what he is holding right now, the one power he was truly jealous of last time. This time he tells himself he will put it to good use. His hand closes around the phoenix's flame, and everything goes white. Cut back to Draxon at the volcano site. He storms into the mountain interior, roaring the question of who the hell found his phoenix. His underling asks quietly whether it could have been Berger Deus. Draxon dismisses that idea flatly and says Berger came to Orion without a single benefit to his name. Berger does not even have upper-rank demons with him beyond the lieutenant, who should be sitting in the tower. A rookie demon king could not possibly have dug up this information. Draxon's own security, he insists to himself, was not lax enough to leak it. He runs through the names in his head. Rhina, Ugar, neither of them. Ugar does not have the brains to plan an operation like this. Rhina is a frost demon, and a fire element phoenix would be poison to her if anything. Then the only bastard left who could have done this is one name, and Draxon finally lets it slide out of his teeth. An underling asks whether the summoning beast is still safe. Yeah, comes the reply, it is safe. But a wolf underling adds carefully that earlier the tiger guardian suddenly jumped into the lava. Draxon's eyes explode. He roars for them to stop it right now. His underlings ask what is wrong. Draxon shouts that the intruder is trying to steal the phoenix, and that this is dangerous, and that they need to move. Across the continent, the ripple of two colliding waves of demonic energy hits everyone connected to Berger's operation. Granada at the Horton Walk training grounds with an elf companion looks up from his work with dread creeping across his face. Hillen Cargill, standing somewhere in his royal armor, feels the shockwave in his bones. And Ernan, in her nightgown at the tower window, folds her hands and stares out into the sky in silent worry. Draxon finally settles on the only name that fits every clue. Jason. He roars it across the volcano with all the fury of a demon king who has just been robbed blind. Jason, you son of a bitch. Our boy's setup is perfect. The phoenix is gone, and the blame lands squarely on the demon king of lies. Our boy wakes up in the middle of a strange forest, with no idea how he got there. The last thing he remembers is trying to slip the phoenix corpse into a subspace pocket and haul it back to the tower. But before the summoning beast's mana could even react, the whole thing sank straight into his body. He knows the volcanic eruption blew him far off course. That much makes sense. What does not make sense is the ring of wild animals staring at him. Deer nuzzle at his shoulders. Birds settle on the branches around him. Rabbits sit at his feet. Burgee snaps at a deer to get lost, but the deer just tilts its head. Something is wrong. He does not feel like himself, and he cannot place why. He walks to the edge of a stream and kneels and sees his own reflection staring back at him. The hair is red now, bright and unmistakable red. He stares at the water and cannot process what he is looking at. Far to the south, the king of Ormuth is receiving news that will shake the continent. Prince Mark Ormuth is dead. He was killed near the Tower of Beasts, according to the wounded dwarven princess who came stumbling back with the story. The king stands before his court and calls it an honor. A son raised as a brave warrior falling on the battlefield while protecting the weak. The moment the doors close, the mask breaks. He roars for the Heroes Guild to move. He wants Draxen dead. He wants the Beast Demon King executed, and he wants a hero's journey mustered immediately. His aide bows and races off with the order. Back in the forest, Berger taps his communication orb and Helen comes through. He flinches at the sight of a red-haired stranger and asks who he is talking to. The guy explains flatly that some circumstances came up and his appearance has changed. Forget it, he tells Helen, and just report. And Helen reports what he has been dreading. At the request of the King of Ormuth, a hero's journey is being organized to bring down the Beast Demon King. The captain will be Rosal Charnt, who is one of the 10 stars and a top-class battle mage of flame magic. The vice-captain will be Paul of Disrode, who is another of the 10 stars, and a man who reached the peak of his craft through pure martial might. 200 fighters are assembling, and 200 of them are true heroes. Their only objective is subjugation of the Beast Demon King. The plan is to gather in Ormuth and march on the Tower of Beasts immediately. Berger frowns as he listens. 200 heroes is more than he expected, but only 10 stars among all of them. That is the wrong number. Someone with power and money is quietly pulling strings and thinning out the roster. Someone does not want the Beast Demon King to die. To humans, a Demon King's tower is a treasure mine where countless riches sleep and the bodies of fallen demons become materials for magic items and trade at high prices. There are humans who profit enormously from Draxen still being alive, and the last thing they want is for the Tower of Beasts to collapse. Our boy exhales and murmurs that even something that looks simple at a glance has conflicted interests tangled around it. Human society really is complicated. Then he makes his decision. Helen will join this hero's journey too. Berge will hand him the Beast Demon King's weakness, but Helen has to be the one to finish Draxen. A hero credited with killing 2 Demon Kings will earn the humans' trust that much faster. Through the orb, Helen pushes back with that oily laugh of his. He is grateful, of course, but if he gets stronger over here, will the Demon King really be able to handle him afterward? Berge does not even bother to answer for a moment. Then he tells the hero that absorbing 2 mere Demon Kings would not be enough to oppose him. Leave that worry to him. The call ends. The guy turns to head back to the tower, but the moment he does, another transmission comes through, and this one is not Helen. A demon from the Tower of Beasts wants him. Draxen has requested an emergency convocation of Demon Kings. Our boy freezes. Draxen actually called one. Gordon confirms the message just arrived, and something cold slides down the young Demon King's spine. He let his guard down for a moment, and now there is no time. At the Tower of Beasts, Draxen paces his throne hall with his fangs bared. Reyna has arrived with her aide and gone up to wait. Only Berger and Jason are still missing. Draxen mutters that they must need more time to gather their thoughts before facing him. Then his single red eye flares and he sends a warning down the communication line. If Berger Diaz arrives late, he will be included among the suspects too. Gordon offers a solution. Since the Demon King is already near Ormuth, why not let Gordon portal to the Tower of Beasts alone and stall? Berger shouts him down. Arriving there without his aid will only prove he was in the neighborhood, and every other Demon King will notice. But arriving late is just as damning. He needs to get back to his own tower fast and portal in with Gordon. He runs harder, and it is not fast enough. He is going to be more than 10 minutes late no matter what he does. Faster, he tells himself. Faster. If he could just fly faster. Wings of blazing phoenix flame explode from his back. The bird itself flares into view around him, and it is huge and golden and screaming. Bergy stares at it in absolute disbelief. He was not planning to use mana yet. He never called this out. Then it hits him. The phoenix is not dead. It is alive, and sitting right there inside his second heart. That is why the animals in the forest swarmed him. They read him as one of them and a living creature of this dimension and not a demon at all. The phoenix drags him across the sky at a speed he cannot control. Our boy tries to slow down and cannot. He crashes straight into his own tower and blows dust off the stonework. He picks himself out of the crater coughing. He did arrive right away, sure, but he cannot steer the phoenix at all. Until he can tame this thing, he is going to have to be very careful. Berger calls Gordon. Is he ready? Did the phoenix burn through its strength and fall asleep? Gordon confirms yes and asks whether the Demon King is on the first floor right now. Indeed, Berger tells him so. Hurry down. They are moving to the Tower of Beasts immediately. Elsewhere in Ormouth, the hero muster is in full swing. A crowd of eager young heroes has spotted the Flame Mage arriving, and they are practically vibrating. They ask if that is really Roselshart, the prodigy who mastered every school of magic at the age of 5. The idol of the magic tower. One of them wants to ask for an autograph. Another rushes forward to introduce himself and swears that fighting alongside her will be the greatest honor of his life. Roselshart does not even look up. She tells them to get lost and calls them riff-raff to their faces. One of her own officers begs her to watch her mouth because the assault unit's reputation is dropping by the second. She winks theatrically and pretends to be horribly wounded by the insult and jokes that her ears will never be washed again. Then she drops the act and mutters to her own people that she has no idea how she is supposed to clear a tower with clowns like that. Then Hillen Cargill walks up. The crowd murmurs. The 10 Stars hero who killed the Demon King of Lust even after his humiliating failure in the Urgist Mountains. Still 10 stars. Hillen smiles his practice smile and greets her warmly. Long time no see. He has come to lend his strength to this hero's journey as well. Rosel's eyes narrow, and she looks him up and down and calls him a loser with a thick face. Then she points out that he is not wearing the filthy ring anymore. She asks if he took it off because there are no elves here to feed it. Hillen's smile freezes solid. He stammers that they should talk about that later and in private. Inside his head he is screaming. A hero who knows how he really killed the Demon King of Lust. If this woman opens her mouth in public, his whole image is finished. Rosal is not done. She tells him that if it were not for the Demon King's order, the two of them would not even have to meet. And then she lays down her verdict. She is the one who will finish off the Beast Demon King. Hillen is to keep those filthy hands of his out of her way. Hillen bows and beams and agrees at once. Of course, and behind that shining hero smile, his own thought hisses in the opposite direction. Like hell he will. The Beast Demon King's head is his. A rune-lit portal splits open in the forest, and purple sigils burn through the air. 2 figures step out onto Draxen Duldorf's ruined grounds. Jason Cockman walks in first with his silver hair catching the light, and our boy Berger Deus follows a pace behind, with his hands calm at his sides. The Demon King of Beasts is already waiting for them in his monstrous white man form. He growls that Jason Cockman and Berger Deus have made it in time and tells them he will explain the details once they are inside. Berger's face stays flat as he answers silently to himself that they are not late at all. High above them at the Tower of Beasts' top floor, the other Demon Kings have already gathered around the central table. Once the 4 are seated, Ugar lifts his monocle with practiced ease and asks Draxen what exactly he would call for an emergency meeting for. Jason continues and casually notes that he has heard the hero's journey targeting the fallen Demon King of Lust has now gathered in Ormouth. He wonders whether tonight's summons is related to that. Draxen's fanged mouth twists into a grim line. Since Jason seems to already know some of it, he tells them he might as well be honest. Then his voice drops. One of the Demon Kings gathered right here in this room, he says, sent a high-ranking demon into his territory. That demon stole the corpse of the phoenix he meant to absorb, and that same bastard also caused the second Prince of Ormouth to die, which in turn triggered the current hero's journey, now barreling toward his tower. Around the table, silence tightens. Ugar keeps his eyes lowered and thinks to himself that so Draxen had been hiding a phoenix all along. Draxen goes on. Whoever did this maybe even killed the dwarf princess as well. Losing his own summoning beast he admits was stupid on his part, but deliberately provoking a hero's journey against him was clearly an act of killing intent. He might have been trying to trigger a full-scale continental offensive. Someone Draxon snarls has been trying to take him out. Then his jaw locks. But he is not dying alone. To kill that traitor, he announces he will purchase the key of the black box. The room stiffens. Berger's face gives nothing away, but inside his chest something goes cold. He knows what a black box is. Inside every Demon King's tower there sits a small mechanism that quietly records every action of the Demon King who owns it. It was originally forged as a device meant to analyze recorded problems and improve future invasions. But the Demon Kings who worship the Demon King standards do not feel the need to use petty items in the first place. Using it also consumes a huge amount of demonic energy points, and it disappears along with the tower if the tower collapses. So now no one pays attention to it. No one until now. Our boy thinks bitterly to himself that the black box is the one card he did not expect Draxon to play. He did not expect this at all. If Draxon opens the black box in his tower, there will be no way left for him to wriggle out of it. Draxon presses forward. In order to open a black box, he explains he needs the permission of the Demon King who owns that tower. He looks around the table with slow and deliberate eyes. Then with a mouthful of fangs he says the words meant to trap them. Everyone here will grant permission gladly, right? Unless, of course, they are the culprit. Berger's expression tightens by the barest fraction. He thinks that of course any of them would hesitate now, and that bastard Draxon knew exactly what he was doing when he framed the question that way. Reyna Soldine cold and composed answers first and grants permission. Jason Cockman lifts his monocle and grants permission. Ugar Belven grunts his consent as well. Then Draxon's red eyes fix on Berger. Berger Deus, he says. Berger raises his gaze evenly and grants permission too. All approve. Draxon declares satisfied. He will contact each of them separately with the results, and then he ends today's meeting there. Outside the tower, Berger's mind moves at machine speed. The black box key is a one-use consumable, and buying it costs a staggering 9,999,999 demonic energy points. Right before a hero's journey, no Demon King in his right mind would sink that much energy into a key and put his own life at risk on purpose. But once the hero's journey ends in failure, and Draxon has time to settle down, he will buy the key immediately and open Berger's and Jason's black boxes. Our boy's jaw sets. Before that happens, he has to deal with Draxon personally. Back inside his own tower, Berger strides through the corridors with Gordon at his heel. He tells his lieutenant that he will quickly check the situation floor by floor and then head out. He asks whether everything is prepared. Gordon confirms sharply that yes, my Demon King, everything is ready. Then Berger starts his inspection from the first floor. What waits for him on the first floor makes even our boy's brows twitch upward. Logir Friedrich is bouncing beside the largest mechanical monstrosity ever built inside these walls. He shouts that this is a magic cannon born from the Demon King's Forge of Hell. This Logir cackles is the Inferno Catapult Mark I. His laugh rolls through the chamber. He cries, "Behold this majestic and beautiful form," and says he has never made such a masterpiece in his life before. Gordon leans toward Berger and mutters that he did tell the dwarf to build whatever he wanted, but asks if that guy is really okay. The guy answers dryly that yes, Logir has gone a bit crazy, but the weapon's performance is certain. Gordon offers to retrieve the Forge of Hell if his lord is worried. Berger shakes his head and tells him to leave it because he wants to see just how far the dwarf takes it. The second floor is Katie Jespini's territory now, and the moment Berger steps in, she is already lunging at him with her sword raised. She spits that she told him she would make him regret training her, did she not? Berger deflects her strike with almost bored ease and remarks that she has not changed at all. Now Katie snarls, it starts for real. Her blade lights up with the light of the Jespine combat sword technique, the Crescent Moon / variant. Then she brings it down with everything she has. Crescent Moon Shatter. Our boy slaps the technique aside with a single motion. Not bad, he tells her, and says she has improved a little. But she still needs more training. Kata stumbles back with her eyes wide with disbelief. She cannot accept that he counteracted her signature technique that easily. As she catches her breath, Berger glances around and asks why Princess Kata is even on the second floor now. Gordon explains that on the fourth floor, Princess Ernan is preparing a summoning, so they moved Princess Kada down here temporarily. A summoning Berger repeats. His interest sharpens. Up on the fourth floor, Ernan Hilderan stands at the center of a ritual chamber with blonde hair loose and eyes focused. Grains of saniel powder, the highest grade bought for her by her demon king, swirl in the air around her, floating instead of falling. A blade of wind cuts her finger, and her blood mixes into the swirling powder. The mana surges, and unknown words spill from her lips. She calls out to the great spirit of water and guardian of water. She asks to be bound by blood and soul in a contract. In the name of Ernan Hilderan, she asks to please answer her call. Space splits open. Pure mana floods outward, and it is impossibly clean for a Demon King's tower. From the tier steps a woman of glass-like beauty who is translucent and elegant. She introduces herself as Niruniel. She looks Ernan over and her lips curl. She notes someone brave enough to summon her inside a Demon King's tower. Then softer she says, good. By the primordial covenant, she declares she Niruniel, a high-ranking water spirit, acknowledges the human Ernan Hilderan as her soul companion. Her body dissolves into countless droplets of water and pours into Ernan, engraving itself onto her soul. Ernan sways where she stands, drenched in sweat and mana burned to the last drop. Then she collapses. Berger catches her before she hits the floor. Her eyes flutter open in his arms, dazed and small. She breathes out the word Demon King. The guy allows himself the faintest smirk. He almost missed a rare sight, he tells her. Good work. Ernan laughs weakly and mumbles that it is nothing, and it is thanks to the saniel powder he saved for her Demon King. Then out of nowhere, her own voice says clearly and unmistakably that she loves the Demon King. Ernan's entire face turns crimson. Her eyes go wide and blank all at once, and she stammers, no, that was not her. She begs him to please believe her and says that voice was definitely hers, but she really did not say anything. Berger's expression goes very flat. He turns his gaze slowly toward Ernan's shoulder, where a tiny blue spirit is perched with a delighted little grin. Niruniel in miniature. Hobby is reading romance novels. Preferred genre is demon forbidden love. She tilts her head at him and asks, all innocent, when the two of them are going out. Our boy stares at her for a long moment, and then at Ernan. He finally asks what kind of nonsense that is even supposed to be. Ernan can only sputter that she has no idea what Niruniel is even talking about either.